What's up, potheads and political junkies? You're watching Cannabis Culture News Live. I'm Jeremiah here with Neil Magnuson.
How you doing?
How are you, Neil?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah?
How you doing?
I'm very good also.
Nice.
Neil has been doing his show now on Thursdays. Tuesdays. Why do I get that confused? Every Tuesday, Pod TV, 4 p.m., you can find Mr. Neil Magnuson on THC, Truth, Hope, and Change. Yes, Neil's new show, so that's going really well.
Well, if you tell people the truth, it's not very nice sometimes, so you got to give them some hope and some way to change things. So that's why that's that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now we do also have, is Johnny coming in on Skype?
Hasn't come in yet, so if you've got someone on the phone...
Yeah, maybe you should see if you can get Johnny in on Skype. And we have right now on the telephone with us is Janick Murray Hall, who is part of a court case. I guess he basically started this court case in the Quebec Superior Court. And this was a case where the judge just ruled, this Judge Manon Lavoie, overturned the province's ban on home-growing cannabis. This was just last Tuesday, and that means that Quebecers are now free to cultivate cannabis without facing legal repercussions. Janick, good to have you here, brother.
What's up?
So, exciting. Congratulations on the case. That's quite a big win.
Yeah, I'm kind of still surprised too. It's a big win. It's always also a good win good news for Manitobans who have the same kind of restrictive government than we have in Quebec.
Right, exactly. Now, I don't know if this is binding per se, but because Manitoba will be, going forward and trying to fight for the same kind of thing in their province, I think that would definitely be influential to the judge there.
Well, I think if it's unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional, right?
Right.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
It's still got to go through court, though. That's not quite how it works, because as we found out, and we'll get into this a little bit after I asked a few other questions, but we talked to Jack Lloyd, our lawyer, about how this affects the Vancouver court case that's kind of related, where a municipality was actually allowed to supersede the federal government. We'll talk about why that happened or how that can possibly be seemingly two contradictory findings in just a little bit. But Janick, I wanted to ask you about the case. Why did you start this case, and how did all that happen?
Well, I was reading the news about all the legalization and stuff, and seeing that the governments in Quebec, they were trying to ban. Well, there was a lot of confusion in the laws. In some cities like Montreal, they wanted to allow people to smoke outside. The government of Quebec and the parties in the opposition, they didn't want us to grow, and so there was a lot of different information going into the media, and I was like, what the fuck, man? I don't understand. What isn't the law clear? So I went to read the law, and then there was this fight also with the justice minister of the federal government and the provincial governments, and they were sending the ball to each other and saying that no, they can grow, but the provincials said no, they can't. So what happened is they said if somebody contests the law, we'll see what happens. So I just started from there, and I tried to contact some lawyers. And the big thing that ticked me off was that there was this minister, Lucie Charlebois, the justice minister, or the health minister in Quebec for the Liberals, and she said that if somebody would try to contest the law in court, it would cost him an arm. It's gonna be fucking expensive for you. So that really pissed me off. So I said, okay, I'm gonna because I'm already in a lawsuit because I have a satirical newspaper in Quebec, and that parodies the Journal de Montréal from Québécois. So I kind of learned with lawyers and everything how lawsuits work. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do it as cheap as possible. So I contacted this firm that specialized in cannabis, and I said, just make me the defense document. Just do the research, give me the document. I will go to court. It won't cost me as much. It won't cost me $50,000 or $100,000 that it would cost normally. and I'll do it myself. And they were smart enough to make a deal with me and say, no, we want the publicity, I guess, and
Right.
we'll do it with you.
Well, that's very cool. Well, and it sounds like you did have a good lawyer. I saw some of the comments that he said to the media, and it looked like they were right on top of it. Now, I guess this has an effect right away that, like, I guess people can now feel safe to actually grow there. Or they said that because the government can appeal it, I guess it's not in law yet. They have 30 days or something to appeal. Is that right?
If you're like presently growing illegally 4 plants or less in Quebec, then for at least until they appeal, now you're legal.
Right, exactly.
I see.
Yeah, you can still do it, but if they appeal, then it might not be stand, right? So
So Quebec's got a bunch of other stuff that's really contrary to what would be allowed federally.
It's just a wacko government. It's like they're scared of weed. They don't understand like all the benefits of legalization. They're just scared like shitless. Like they didn't want this, and all the parties, even the opposition parties that said like Parti Québécois, they said okay, we will allow 2 plants. Now they're all saying it's not cool. The federal government supersedes our laws in Quebec, so they're not even fighting after the majority party. They're fighting against the federal, against me. And there's another party, the Québec Solidaire. They're like super leftist, like NPD or NDP. It's like our NPD in Quebec, and they would allow the four plants before the elections. They wanted 4 plants. They're not saying anything. And the stupid law is like in Quebec we cannot have a T-shirt, a Bob Marley T-shirt with a leaf of weed on it. You cannot have any product that has leaf because it will incite people to smoke marijuana. So all the people who sold, all the shops that sold Bob Marley stuff, they had to destroy their merchandise or sell it off to the United States or other provinces. Just completely absurd.
that is really absurd. Well, sounds like more stuff to challenge.
There's a lot of weed being smoked in Quebec, legal or not, though, right?
Yeah. It's just the difference here is that we don't have like I lived like a lot of time in like 8 years in BC, and you've got the West Coast like weed activism culture over there. That like 20 years ago there were coffee shops in Vancouver. I could go smoke there and everything. But here there's not that culture. Like everybody smokes, but like it's not accepted as much as on the West Coast. It's very old people mentality. It's like old senile baby boomers who voted for that government to protect us from weed. It's like in the 1940s here. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Do you think
Very
that corruption?
conservative.
Do you think that corruption plays a role, though? Because I mean, there's a lot of weed being smoked in Quebec, and if you're not going to let people grow their own plants, that really protects the sellers of weed on the underground market. So,
Totally. That like the government does not understand how prohibition helps organized crime, and organized crimes then uses the money to corrupt politicians. It's just
So they do
everybody knows that. It's so stupid. I'm so not disappointed. I'm just pissed at those retards, like the people that the politicians and
It's so
maybe
true.
I don't know. They're just scared. They're just what I read in the media is that even the people are scared. There's not a lot of people who publicly support me. Like even there's no big organization that support me. There's just people in the street. They support me, but not the opposition parties. Nobody. It's really weird. I'm doing this like by myself.
Well-
I feel completely isolated.
I think
you.
you're absolutely right, and we really do appreciate you doing this. But I think the idea that there's no big group behind you, it is really bizarre because you look at down in the U.S. and all of the states that are moving forward with legalization, they have politicians behind them. Yeah. There's a lot of people who have seen the change and seen what's coming and got behind that. Here in Canada, there's almost no politicians. Like Don Davies is one of them, but there's so few that are actually behind this issue and really going the distance that it should go. It's just bizarre. I don't get it. It seems like Canada's a heck of a lot more conservative in a lot of ways than people really think, especially on this issue.
And like either you like or you don't like Trudeau, I really don't care. But what he did to legalize is revolutionary, and I've waited for that all my life. And then I saw the government try to ban growing, ban stuff, ban T-shirts, ban everything. They create a monopoly, like you said, and like help organized crime. Like what? Like this. We have a monopoly of on weed here. It's the SQDC shops. It's like the liquor stores.
Yeah.
You still have liquor stores in BC?
Yeah, we still do, run by the government as well.
Well, now we've got the BC Liquor Cannabis Control Board.
Yeah, they run the weed here too.
But like in Quebec, we can buy beer and wine in the grocery and in the convenience store.
Yeah.
But we can only buy really cheap wine. We cannot buy really good wine. So it's all kind of weird monopolies that are going. The government is very socialist here, very borderline communist on some issues. So they really like to keep the monopoly, and that's why they lost. Because the only true reason to make it illegal to grow at your home is to make people go to the store, to the state store to buy the thing. And that they made it illegal, and they make it criminal to grow weed at home. And that's criminal law is federal, and so they were not in their jurisdiction to do that.
What about the age limits?
The what?
The age limits. You have to be older in Quebec to purchase cannabis.
I wanted to sue them for that too. But we wanted to win on the easiest aspect. So, and I can't like spend time doing the job that I'm not supposed to do as a citizen. I'm not supposed to tell to my government that what they're doing is illegal.
Right.
It's stupid.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, it's ridiculous.
Not out of your pocket,
But
anyway.
No kidding, and thank you so much, my friend. And if it does go to appeal, I mean, I want us to help you try to raise as much money as possible for this, because you shouldn't have to pay for this out of pocket.
Yes, exactly. I will need you guys to help me do a fundraiser, and it will also help Manitobans that will probably follow suit after that, because it's ridiculous. Like everybody else is in Canada. I'm a Canadian citizen. Why don't I have the same rights than all the rest of you guys?
No kidding.
Right.
Absolutely true. Now, one of the things we talked about was about how this affects a court case in Vancouver that was kind of related to this. The case in Vancouver was actually brought up by our lawyers, and this was looking at whether or not the Vancouver government actually has the right to supersede the federal government itself. Now, we actually lost this case, and that means that City of Vancouver won, and the judge said the City of Vancouver has the right to do whatever they want, no matter what the federal rules say. Now, this case contradicts that directly. And so I called Jack Lloyd, the lawyer who's working on our case about it, and he says, yeah, it does contradict it directly, and that's going to have to get worked out. And he said in our appeal that he'll actually be able to use your case, Janick, and actually that will help him try to win our case. But he said, sometimes one judge will find something and another judge halfway across the country will be completely contradictory, and that's the way the law works. And
just to be sure, what did the City of Vancouver win on what aspect?
The City of Vancouver won on, I guess it was because they had the right to regulate health in the way that they wanted to. But what Jack said is, well, that's actually the provincial government's jurisdiction. The provincial government, makes a municipality anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's a municipality or if it's provincial. He says that your case, the judge found the right way according to the constitutional law, and he said in the Vancouver case, the judge, well, he didn't say it, but I said that the judge obviously found the wrong way in our case if he found the right way in yours, because it can't be both. And then Jack said, kind of in a way, it can be both because that's just the way the courts are.
Janick, it's Neil here. In Vancouver back in the 90s, we had another overdose crisis with heroin being tainted with China White, or a China White strain of heroin that was killing people. And the response of Vancouver City, after being forced by the activists, was to allow for supervised injection site to happen. And that was against federal policy and the criminal code. And it took a while for the city of Vancouver to get on board with that. And then it took a while for the city of Vancouver to get the federal government to get on board with that. But it turns out that when there's a crisis like that, the city has the power to contravene the criminal code and federal policy to address that crisis. When the laws are causing harm and not preventing harm, I mean, they're of really no force and effect, you would think. And here we have the same situation again now, except that the answer to the overdose crisis is not supervised injections. It's high-dose cannabis edibles, and it's low barrier access to cannabis flowers and concentrates. So we've got the city of Vancouver all ready to pass a motion just about 2 months ago that is going to allow for cannabis to be dispensed to address the opioid crisis, and that's yet to be determined what that's going to look like. But they in their motion made it so that they had to have consultations with the people at the street level, being the drug users and their group, along with our group, the Cannabis Substitution Project that works out of Vandu. So we're going to insist on the high-dose edibles and the low barrier access. So I think that's kind of what Jeremiah is alluding to with the powers that the city has to contravene federal law.
Well, yeah, and I think
the big problem with the federal law is like you know the personality of Justin Trudeau. He wants to be friends with everybody. Well, when he made the law, he wanted to be friends with all the provinces and probably the big cities also. So in the federal law for the legalization of cannabis, he opens a lot of doors for city reglementation, for provincial reglementation, and all these things go in conflict. So if he had been more like, let's say, a dictatorial, or made a law more clear that define like just the age, you're allowed 4 plants, everybody, no problem, no discussion, boom. I wouldn't have to go to court in Vancouver either, and it's just that the law is very unclear.
It's true.
In Quebec, what happened is that like the federal law says 4 plants or less per person, and the provincial government said from 0 to 4 we choose 0. And what my lawyer said is no, that's interdiction. That's making it criminal offense to like they're just idiots. But I think it's the federal law that was not clear enough, and now we're all tangled up in different jurisdictions, and it's the same story in Quebec. Like Quebec City doesn't want people to smoke outside in public, but Montreal wants people to smoke in public. So then the provincial government changed, they switched, they said, okay, we'll allow people to smoke in public, but every city is allowed to make it illegal or not. So it's just a hell.
Yeah, it's crazy all over the map.
Yeah.
But I think your case is a big one, and thank you so much for all the hard work on it, brother. You're doing really great work there, and I hope that they don't appeal it. As you said, it does cost a lot for the government to do these appeals, and of course they have to find some way of justifying it. They also have to have some kind of new information or another way to argue it that's just not the same original parameters.
Yeah, because the appeal they have to convince a judge that with new information, with a new case, because the other judge said no.
Exactly.
So you have to bring something new to the table. What will they bring to the table? They haven't spoken a lot about what they will do, but they've said that they might try to pass new laws.
Right.
Did they?
It's not finished. It's not finished. They're gonna create some more trouble, and they have all the taxpayer money against me.
Did they talk at all about justification for not allowing plants? Did they talk about how dangerous it was to grow the plants or anything like that?
Not really, because that's what they said that it was. It's for health and public safety. But even in Quebec, the thing of santé publique, of health, public health, they said that they were in concordance with the federal law and everything, and that they thought it was a good thing for the public health. So it's like old nanny or old grandfather that said, no, you cannot do that. No, it's not good for you.
Yeah.
It's not based on logic. It's fear. They're scared. They're really scared.
And of nothing.
Yeah.
And of nothing.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
They're gonna have to come up with something if they want to appeal it, though. So let's hope that they don't.
And they don't want to lose face again. Like the Prime Minister of Quebec is like, oh, we were surprised by the verdict, and he's like, if he loses again, like all the other laws, stupid, they're being sued by all on every new law that they pass. It's really a weird government. It's like, do you have any lawyers working for you? Because so it's gonna scare them even more if I keep winning at this case, and the other lawsuits around marijuana are coming.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
Well, thanks for coming on, my friend. Really appreciate it, and let's keep in touch about all this. If they do appeal it, then we'll definitely help you try to raise some cash for that. But I'd love to talk to you again soon.
yeah, no problem. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that was Janick Murray Hall, who was the guy who brought the Quebec Superior Court case about the growing plants at home and won. Pretty awesome.
Yes, Billy, there are no monsters in the garden. Monsters in flower pots are not real, Billy.
It's true.
Yeah.
Johnny couldn't do the Skype thing or something. Wasn't working.
Couldn't log in.
Oh
man.
John. Forgot his password. We could FaceTime him in now. Mr. Cookie also is in Amsterdam and wanted to Skype in, but he is currently having some Skype troubles himself. But we do have over in the hot seats here. Look who it is. It's Mr. Dana Larsen and the Don of Dank.
The Don of
J-Mac.
Dank.
Look at that outfit.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, he looks like straight out of Goodfellas there.
Yeah.
It's like, get your fucking shine box.
I got an offer.
Did you go on the makeover show or something? Did a complete makeover for you?
I kind of.
Stoner makeovers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. The new look, guys.
He lost the spandex biker gear, and now he's got the
Oh, no. It's
cowboy
like,
boots and slick suit.
No, it's now fall. So it's like upcoming. There's gonna be a lot of conferences and stuff, and I kind of want to be like, I want to put out a good face for the company. So,
Well, he goes with the
Good idea.
trendy things. I know it's summer's over, so you got to get in your fall clothes. You put away your jean shorts, your high riding jean shorts.
Still pretty warm out there.
I still
Pretty warm out
every
there.
now and then. I still remember every now and
J
then.
Mac's cheeks are hanging out of his shorts. Yeah.
Just for you, Jeremiah. Just for you.
So Dana Larsen, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me here. I'm just rolling a little doobie and
Rolling a doobie. Dana
You
came
don't
to talk to
roll
us.
little doobies. You don't know what that means.
That's a
That's
mid-size.
the smallest doobie I've seen you roll. I think
these are the
forever.
only papers I could find.
Are
These
you
geese,
okay? Are you sick? Are you
Yeah,
sick?
they're just little
Yeah,
papers.
yeah.
I don't know.
Those
nothing
Egyptian
wrong with a little
papers.
doobie
Ah, you're
once in a
right.
while.
I've never seen you
I
roll a
can
joint that
little
small.
ones. I can roll.
So Dana, you got all kinds of stuff going on as always. What's interesting, I know that there's some movement on this whole mushroom thing. We have Melissa DeGenova, the most wonderful city councilor of all time.
He said proceed.
Well, she's actually great because she gets me a lot of publicity and new customers, and whenever she's in the media,
Yeah.
people hear about it, and controversy
Yeah.
drums up new business, right? People hear about it, and then they want to find out more, and they want to order and stuff. And so I've been doing this about I think it's been 9 weeks since I launched the Medicinal Mushroom Dispensary at mushroomdispensary.com, and we only do micro doses, right? So our strongest capsule is just 1/10 of a gram, and most people I'm finding that's about a good 75 milligrams to 125 milligrams twice a week is working out pretty well. Or we got So
We got Johnny in.
all right, so it's going good, and but yeah, when I first launched, it's online only, right? So I can serve all of Canada by mail order. You've got to have some kind of medical documentation, not necessarily a prescription for psilocybin, but something showing me that you've got an ailment. And
Right.
it's actually some of the responses I'm getting from people make me cry when I read them, right? Oh, bless you, my life has changed, the veil is lifted, I can go out of the house, I'm not crying every day anymore, and some really remarkable responses.
So what's Melissa's problem? What is she worried about?
Well, I said I was going to open a storefront at some point in the next few months, and I'm still planning on doing that. And so she has got a motion which is coming up at City Council on September 11th, which you can maybe take a look at. But basically she's saying that the city needs to stop any mushroom dispensaries or any other illegal drug outlets, that the marijuana dispensaries was very hard to get them closed and regulated, and it costs the city a lot of money, and we don't follow the rules anyways, and so we got to stop the next wave, which would be mushrooms. And her motion mentions like Mexican drug cartels and Middle Eastern organized crime gangs, and it mentions people injecting psilocybe, and so it's got some really bizarre aspects to it.
Let's read this.
Weird stuff.
I want to read this to people. Is it quite long? But let's just read it.
Cool. We get to see what you said here.
Yeah, I want to see.
But I'll just say, when you look at this, just keep in mind the context. So this is a city council, including Melissa DeGenova, who voted unanimously to support a safe drug supply, voted unanimously to stop stigmatizing drug users. And although we didn't love the bylaws that they put in around dispensaries, they created bylaws and supported them to an extent, unlike other cities like Toronto, which only raided, right? Vancouver didn't do any raids. They did. I'm not a huge fan of the bylaws and the details in them, but and if they'd written those bylaws before we opened our place, like we opened one and we just got shut down a while ago because we're in a zone that they decided 10 years later wasn't allowed. Well, if they'd written bylaws then, even the ones that they brought in place eventually, we all would have then worked to avoid those places. We would have tried to comply, right? But by not giving us any framework until 10 years later, after there was already 100 open, it caused a lot of hassles. And so this motion, I think, although I don't like any of the whereas and the focus of it, with just a few words changed at the end of it, you'll see in the thing, it could actually be quite good. Because, sure, maybe the city should look into how they can deal with places selling illegal drugs in some way, but that should include supporting them and giving them a license and backing them up when appropriate. Doesn't mean every time they have to support everybody selling anything out of any location. But the city should be looking at, and people are talking about a heroin dispensary and opium access and things like that. And they should be going like, yeah, we probably can't do it ourselves as a city, or maybe we don't have that power, but if you do it, and you're doing it responsibly and transparently, we can back you up. Yeah. You know, just like they've kind of done that, they did that, it took them a long time, but eventually they backed up Insight, although the first needle exchange and the first injection sites were all activists doing it, getting harassed by the cops, getting trouble from the city, bong sales, you know, this place here, the city was, the mayor at the time, Philip Owen, was going to shut it down, he converted. So we need a city council, like for me, safe drug supply, mushrooms and opioids and all those things. That is like the supervised injection site of our decade, right? It's the next step forward.
Dana, tell me this. How much of your mushrooms come from Mexican drug cartels?
Yeah, I mean, what they do is they smuggle the mushrooms across, because you know, you can't grow mushrooms in Canada, right? I mean, the climate's wrong, you need a lot of space to grow these things.
I know, right?
So we have plantations in Mexico, and then they smuggle them up with couriers, you know. Some of them die on the trip. They swallow condoms full of mushrooms and bring. I mean, obviously not. You can and because we're only doing micro doses, we're only selling them 1/10 of a gram at a time. So, you know, I've got a couple of hundred customers now, but most of them have only ever gone through like 2 or 3 grams of mushrooms in the time I've had them on board. Yeah. So a pound or 2 of mushrooms, which you can grow yourself in a very small space, lasts for months, right? Yeah. So I have one supplier who's been growing mushrooms for many, many years, and it's not a cartel, and there's no injecting of mushrooms. Anyways, look at her motion and see that the paranoia. But I just wanted to put it in the context that she's supposed to be supporting safe drug supply.
Have you ever seen anyone ever inject psilocybin?
I mean, in theory, you can inject pure psilocybin if you were to extract it out of the mushroom or make it synthetically and then inject it. I don't know anyone who would ever want to do that because there's no advantage. And if you want to get most people don't want to they want to have a nice trip, but they're not looking to like take 100 grams, and you know that would be bad, right? But I don't see any motivation for anybody. The only time you would inject it, I would think, would be in some kind of a lab context where they're not allowed to give you real mushrooms and they want to analyze something, so they would do it in that kind of way to get a real precise dosage. But even places that do studies, like MIT and that have done psilocybin studies, they don't use mushrooms, they use pure psilocybe. Right. But they still ingest it orally. They're not injecting anybody with it, right? I don't know anybody.
I think we have to try it.
I think so too.
I think it's time to start
chasing
the mushroom
what
dragon.
Would be the effects, I wonder?
Yeah.
I mean, you just get super high really fast.
100 grams, you said. If somebody did 100. I've done 2.5 grams. It kicked my ass so hard.
You don't. There's
hallucinations.
There's a lot of research
colors.
showing that there's like a threshold for benefits with mushrooms.
Yeah.
And then after that, the benefits may go up a little bit, but the fear and the negativity can go up quite a bit.
Yep.
So a 10-gram dose of mushrooms is not 10 times more enlightening than a 1 gram.
No.
You know, but
I did
there's a
that
certain
early in my
point-
life. I was probably 18, 19 years old, and I ate what I've always said was too much. I didn't enjoy that. It wasn't comfortable, and it took me decades before I even tried it again.
Yeah.
And now I've tried it a number of times again. It's a good experience in the right dose, the right way.
And microdosing is really still user. I mean, mushrooms on many charts of harm of potential things show mushrooms as being even safer than cannabis, and certainly they're in the same family. You can overdose in the sense that you take too much and you feel uncomfortable, just
That's
like
right.
with marijuana.
Same with that.
But there's no toxicity. So you could inject pure psilocybin if you so desired, and that still wouldn't kill you. Just like injecting THC. I mean, no one's going to do that though. So it's dumb to even
Why
bring
you
that up.
keep
in
saying that.
promotion,
People
right?
do everything.
We should go. Can you do like a parody speech at the, like a sarcastic speech? Like go up and I've been a mushroom addict for this many years, injecting mushrooms, and
We have to find some of those people who went down that path.
Melissa,
Well,
did
then
you
the
know
irony
that?
is, if people were injecting mushrooms and it was killing people, they'd be more inclined to support a safe supply because of the harm, right?
Yeah,
And I
that's what
mean,
we
mushrooms
do.
are quite safe, but just like there
They've
can be
been known
harm.
to help
in
people with addiction, right?
the main harm in illegal mushrooms is getting arrested, having mushrooms that aren't really mushrooms, eating the wrong kind of mushroom and hurting yourself because you're
Right.
ingesting a dangerous poisonous one that you picked yourself or whatever. Those are the
And that's a
harms
real
of mushrooms,
danger,
right?
yeah.
All but the actual mushrooms themselves are quite safe.
Right.
The experience.
And not only safe but useful, right? Like they're good for people.
There's a ton of research on this. There's been a lot of studies into microdoses and macrodoses, direct studies given them to people, analyzing their responses, and anxiety, depression, PTSD, just general mental health issues. They're incredibly beneficial for people, and they help you have insights and understanding that can make breakthroughs.
It's true.
And I've been looking up, the way SSRIs work, antidepressants work, is to sort of push down all your emotions. So yeah, you feel less depressed and less upset, but you also feel less happy and less joy at the same time.
Yeah.
And mushrooms and that seem to work by pushing everything else up. So yes, you still feel upset and you still feel that hurt, but it's not outweighing everything else. You can put it in the context, and you can also feel joy and happiness and other regular emotions too. And so instead of damping everything down, you sort of, I imagine seeing it like you got all your range of emotions, and there's a spike when it comes to these negative ones that should be, it's natural to feel negative emotions, and usually it's in the context of something bad happening to you, right? So you feel sad because something happened. That's normal, right? But that the mushrooms just bring up all the other emotions so that you're not only focusing on that one thing. That still hurts, but there's also joy in the world too, and I can also feel positive, and I can just accept that pain as part of the rainbow of life or whatever, right? The panoply of experience, and people who I've talked to who have taken larger dosages get that kind of, and that's my experience too, right? I mean, I've had quite a few mushroom experiences, and that's how I find it.
We have Johnny Burfello on the Skype phone here on FaceTime. Hi, Johnny.
Hi, guys.
Are you, Johnny, you're a big mushroom head, because I've seen you rolling around on the ground a few times on mushrooms, having fun.
Last gathering comes to mind.
But it's, I go all the way back to like 1986 in high school, and, using mushrooms as a young adolescent and having a good time, picking those fieldies, going to the mushroom field. I'm actually a member of the Fraser Valley Mushroom Club, so when it came to edible mushrooms, learning how to cook and pick and
Wait a
all
second.
that great stuff. So, mushrooms have these different parts of my life. Like, after my fall of 28 feet, I was having cluster headaches and tension headaches. And in 2008, at Vancouver 420, I did a low dose of mushrooms, and those headaches went away and never happened again.
Sorry, Johnny, you're falling over.
Small doses, it was great.
Mushrooms.
But, I'm known for the glass gathering for my reset by accident of... I just crawling on the ground. I had a fantastic time, and you know what? I was definitely the party. I was on.
You were the life of the party, Johnny.
I was. I had a team of 20 people looking after me because I just had surgery. It was just 6 months after my
A
surgery.
team of 20 people.
That team,
That's the mushrooms talking.
Yeah.
But, a little like skill of maybe a kid would roll down and laugh at, I thought was like a cliff of 10,000 feet. So apparently I was quite I had a fantastic time. So there's different parts of being able to use mushrooms in all different aspects of life. And you know what? I think it's fantastic because it's natural. You can go and pick them. You can learn about them. And there's different types of mushrooms. And there's different types of weed. And I love what you're doing, Dana, because you know what? It's something that it's a natural medicine that grows from the earth.
Yeah.
So have you grown your own mushrooms, Johnny?
I have hundreds and hundreds of mushroom spores that I've actually were gifted to me through a friend. And I did learn how to do flow hoods and grow right from mycelium. I actually did my own petri dishes and did all my agar, and I did all my inoculations, and I had my flow. I know how to do all that stuff.
I'm looking forward to the video.
No, it's not a video I've never done, actually. It's kind of funny because I think it was before I was doing videos. Back in just after my accident in 2009, 2010 was actually when I was doing a lot of growing, and then back when I was younger, we used to get that, and we did. And funny thing is where I learned how to decarboxylate CBD in 2008 was using a pressure cooker when I was actually doing all of the mushrooms, and we put everything into the pressure cooker to actually sterilize things. And at that point, I threw a bunch of weed into the pressure cooker, and that showed me how to decarboxylate at that point. And that was 2007.
There you go. Well,
that little thing and went into the pressure cooker because. It was just all different ways of learning, and that was all sterilization, right? So mushrooms are, if you haven't grown them, wow, it's an experiment. It's a lesson. You have to be so clean. It really teaches you a lot.
Well, this motion is happening on September 11th or
3 o'clock, and if you're in Vancouver,
3
you can go speak, or you can send a message to the city council about it. I don't think Miss Alyssa represents, she's speaking for council on this, right? No. She's kind of extremist. We banter back and forth on Twitter and kind of go after each other a bit and stuff. But she, she's also tried. She was the one spearheading the effort to sue everybody involved in 420 and to go after every single person, and had a motion which got passed, but the rest of the council changed a whole bunch of stuff in it and then passed it, right? So. And she's also, previously she tried to have motions to before cannabis was legal or whatever, to have every dispensary only carrying LP weed, which would mean they all got to shut down basically, and was very opposed to licensing dispensaries, and is just kind of the anti-cannabis. She's the voice of the anti-cannabis people on city council. And,
on that side of things, we actually have more movement at City Council about events. You mentioned 420, or did you?
Well, there's another thing going on that the city council, I think about 2 years ago, actually asked staff to look into escalating policing costs for events and how to deal with all these events and stuff. And they've got a recommendation coming towards the board to City Hall, I think fairly soon. And the staff are recommending that most policing costs no longer be charged to events. And they kind of break it down, and I'm trying to remember now, there's operational costs, and then there's safety costs, and they want the event to pay for one of those, but not the other part. I'm not quite sure how it divides up, but that's what I've been saying for a long time, right? I mean, I'm not sure policing costs should be totally, but especially, and you think about it, if you're doing an event, let's say you got some Jewish groups doing an event, and then somebody says, we're going to come and blow you guys up. So they send more cops to protect them, and then that group gets the bill? That doesn't seem right, that you should pay more because... Right. And that was one of the things at 420. I'm actually meeting with the VPD representative sometime in the next week or two to talk about the policing bill at 420, because this year was about $160,000. Yeah. And you look at an event like Italian Day, for instance, and they say they get 400,000 people at their event, and their policing bill was $40,000. Yeah. And they say this is too much and we can't pay this, and look how it's been going up. It used to only be $20,000.
Yeah.
And so that's about 10 cents a person. And that seems to be roughly what the cost is with other events. It's around 10 cents a person. Ours is $1.10 a person.
Yeah.
And our event is not, and these are events with beer gardens and liquor drinking and stuff, so it's not like, and there's definitely a need for a few police at our event, or at least some security anyways.
I think what you wanted to say, Dana, is that we've done 25 years of 420 with such a great history of safety and effective organizing that we of all of the groups should probably get a less bill than the Italians. And,
well, on the list, I got a list up from them of reasons why the policing bill is high, and one of the things they put in there was that controversy over this year's event made us think maybe something might happen. I forget how they phrased it, but I mean, for the first time ever, I got 2 hater phone calls about 420 this year. Neither one of them said, we're going to kill you or anything, but the one guy was like, I hate you, and like, he's calling, and the other guy was left a message, but they're still, that's not, that's not good, right? And so I could see, and it's not so much our thing, like I said, if the police, I asked them, they said, oh, well, somebody drove a car into a crowd in Paris, and so we got to make sure no one drives a car into your event. And I'm like, well, if somebody tried that and they stopped them, then that's all money well spent, right? But I'm not sure that should be our fault that something happened in Paris and now we need protection and now, we got to pay for it. If we can't afford the extra money for the car protection squad, then we can't have an event. Like if we decide as a society, this is the policing that we need or whatever, then that should be covered.
Well,
policing
in
should be
Paris,
free.
it was because they were upset about the Italian event, and there was a bunch of phone calls back and forth there as well. And anybody that's putting on any event about anything, you're going to get the odd person that's not in favor of what you're doing. For you to only have 2 people to call and say they hate you because of your
I've
support
never
of
had
420,
any, I mean, my number's
and never
pretty
any
easy
before.
to get, but
I mean, that's a testament
Dana,
in itself to it.
I think that's such a good point, Dana. It reminds me of like New York in the 1800s or something, where you had to have like a badge on your house, or the fire department would drive right by if your house was on fire. It's like, what? We're not paying the police to. It's like it's a protection racket or something. It's like we have to pay them to protect us.
There's no. I'm not that I don't. I mean, I'm not a safety expert, so I'm not necessarily second guessing the cops. But at the same time, somebody should be able. There should be someone who does do that. There should be some kind of civic ombudsman, because we're talking about like a lot of money over the course of a year. It adds up to millions of dollars in policing costs for all the protests and things too. For sure. And so maybe it's justified. I don't know, but there should be. I'd rather not just take the police's word on it every time that they know exactly. They should be. They're supposed to be the experts, right? But there should be somebody else overseeing that and going, well, do you really?
They are driving rather fancy
Why is this
cars,
one more than that one? What are the real reasons? You should be a little more. And you ask the police, and they said I'm meeting with them, and I'm not. The VPD are fine in terms of our relation with them at 420. Other than the bill, they don't give us any hassles. They're super friendly. We get along well, right? So I'm not like anti-cop on this one. It's more just this giant bill that then we get blamed for. And if the bill was like 10 cents a person and it was 15 grand, I'd probably still oppose paying it just on principle. But if we could pay it and we could just shut everybody up and pay the stupid thing. But when it's just not in the scope of even being possible.
I mean, 15 grand isn't so bad, but
yeah, it's still. I don't think we should be paying for policing at all, really. No. But I'd be able to swallow it a little more and just say, okay, whatever, we'll give you some money just to shut everybody up. Yeah. But when it's like more than half the budget for the whole event to pay for this outrageous policing bill, that is unrelated. And so anyways, hopefully that passes, and that would at least bring those numbers down. And I have been on the phone a lot. I was talking to some of the park board staff today, going over the bill, asking questions, because the way they calculated it, there's a different guy working in the department now who does that stuff, so that's why it was added up in a different way. Like the numbers are kind of the same, but something that was in this column is now in that column, and some things are numbered differently, and it's just a little weird, right? The city's bill is always, like, aside from the policing, it seems fair. They don't seem to put weird stuff in. It's about the same every year. But the park board bill, it seems like a vindictive kind of bill where they're like, we got to make sure that they're getting everything, and so they put kind of weird things in there that other events wouldn't get billed for.
Well, and that's because the city staff has been told by the park commissioners to make life difficult for us, essentially.
Yeah, they've been told we should be accountable, and kind of they don't really tell them exactly. You must charge them $5,000 for that permit that we didn't charge, whatever stuff like that, right? But they do kind of get told. But I'm trying to work, and it's all we're trying to work, and I want to put in an application for next year for the event just to make them debate it again, although. They said, well, they might not even do that because the bylaw, the thing they ruled is that no marijuana events are allowed at all, and so they may not have to discuss our thing. And the one spot the city offered us, you were there for that meeting where they said we go to Cavalier, they're building condos there now.
Oh.
So the one spot in this that the city said, well, the only place in the whole city suitable is this mud pit over here,
Yeah.
and now that mud pit's gone. They're building things
wouldn't
in
have
it.
lasted long.
So even the argument, oh, you should go where the city told you to go, which was a crappy spot, but even that's not there anymore, right?
So the lesson is, if you don't
okay.
go to a park, they're going to develop it.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
So I mean, those issues.
They probably would have developed it anyway, so we would have moved everything, and then it would just had to.
But I'm hoping, I just want to get along with people at our event. I want it to be what it
real.
is, to be able to do our stuff, provide a safe space for cannabis buyers and sellers and users and all those things. And I from what I can see, we're going to be back at Sunset Beach again next year. I don't
think
see
so.
any other spots. I talked a little bit. There are a few other. We were in Strathcona Park the other day doing an event, and I was thinking, whenever I'm in a park, I'm always
pull it
thinking,
off.
how many weed smokers could be fit in here?
Yeah.
How many booths could go? And like, it's a nice park. It's a little more accessible in some ways. It's a bit closer to the SkyTrain. There's less people living there. It doesn't have the big hill. It's got a nice view of the mountain. It's not quite as spectacular as Sunset Beach, but it's
Well, it
a
doesn't have the
beautiful thing.
same public optics
No.
as far as taking up a nice space.
Well, and there's the
We
question.
do want attention. We don't want to be stuck
exactly.
in
It's
the corner.
420. Partly, it's about being in your face. A protest. It shouldn't
That's
be
right.
hidden away.
That's right.
But there's a lot of other things going on at the event too, right? It's not just that. It's a
Yeah.
lot of things happening and stuff. So I expect we'll be
Sunset
back. I would
Beach
only
is
really
nice.
move it if part of the moving it deal was that the park board would calm everybody down and solve the problem. But I'm guarantee if we moved, they'd just be like, we don't want them there either. Screw those guys. They shouldn't be in any park, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think
You'll get
it
a
would
Melissa
just,
DeGenova in there because
so if they're not gonna.
Because it, again, like we've referenced a couple times, the city council doesn't work as one total unit. There's individual ideas. Each of the councilors
sure.
has its own ideas. Same with the park commissioners. So you're going to have these rogues or these people like Melissa DeGenova who are outrageous. But then you've also got more sensibly minded people. Although I have to say that most of the councilors aren't really like if they were more sensibly minded, things would be a heck of a lot different.
I've
There
been
was only a
impressed
one
with
vote.
Rebecca Bly.
Rebecca Bly, she
And they're in the
seems
same
like-
party, right? I mean, they're
Yeah.
both NPA, although their party's called the Nonpartisan Party. So theoretically, they don't really have a. They're seen as the right-wing party, but they claim that they're just like, we just want good people who are nonpartisan. And that's how you get two people
That are
who
different.
have, on some issues anyways,
Yeah.
and they're not,
Totally
no
different,
party, they probably
divergent.
do agree on a lot of other stuff that we're paying less attention to or whatever, I don't know, right? But on the
Well, they're
drug
pretty
policy
friendly to
stuff-
business.
Yeah, there you go. But on the drug policy
Yeah.
stuff, there's a big divide there between how
Yeah.
I think Melissa DeGenova wants cannabis and mushroom dispensaries and presumably heroin dispensaries treated, right? And,
Right.
And we need all those things. And they should be putting, like, ideally the city's a partner, and they put in reasonable bylaws that make sure people are safe. And if they don't, I think the school thing is dumb, but if they don't want us near a school, just let us know in advance, and we'll
Totally.
find spots to comply as long as they're reasonable.
Well, we'll still
But,
keep fighting that.
But
As long as cigarettes are available in every grocery store and gas station across Canada, whether they're close to schools or not, I'm not going to put
Right.
up with the
But
discrimination.
if they
on,
pass a
cannabis.
bylaw saying mushroom dispensaries are regulated in such and such a way, I'm not going to be like, as long as those rules, if they're the same as, I'm not going to be like, I'm going to open next to a school and screw you guys. Like,
Yeah.
no. As long as it's reasonable.
Only tweed will be
With the
allowed.
blood. Yeah, and you only certain.
Yeah.
And
open next to a rec
You have to have $5 million to start
we
your
need-
company,
yeah, the
and
city-
you have to
the
go
city-
public first.
I hope that Melissa's motion leads to something positive, and that this discussion leads to them amending the motion to then have it be everything she said, but also and potentially support, help license and regulate places providing illegal drugs where appropriate, or however they want to phrase it. Right? They can look
Right.
into just how they can get control both ways, but in a positive way, not in a we must stop microdose mushroom sales because the Mexican cartels
Yeah.
will be giving people injectable mushrooms and stuff. Right? That's just from another planet. So
Would you be okay with a rule that says no Mexican drug cartels allowed?
Right. Regulate out the organized crime or something.
Yeah, or
Only gain that cartel.
and no injecting mushrooms. If we
Come on,
make,
people,
if we just
don't
make
be
a rule
injecting
against injecting
mushrooms.
mushrooms, that'll make Melissa very happy, and then that'll appease her. And but I know that's going to put a lot of people
Oh
into.
man, it's gonna
I was really
disappoint
looking
so many
forward to
people.
trying some mushroom injections.
Well, just because your government says you can't,
Does it?
yeah.
regulations are made to be broken under the
right.
right circumstances. Keep that in
But
mind.
I'd like to
Laws
see
are
more.
made for a reason, and when
I'd like
that reason's not around, those laws shouldn't really be there either.
I've had a bunch of people email me in Canada and the U.S. saying, I want to open my own mushroom thing. How do I do it? In the States, I'm like, well, I tell everybody, actually, when they ask me about marijuana dispensaries, too, I was always like, what's the worst case scenario? Figure that out. Can you handle that? If so, then go for it. If you don't think you can handle the worst case scenario, then maybe this risk isn't for you. And you know, I think, I mean,
It's
for
risky
me,
biz.
I could be arrested. I think it's unlikely the VPD are going to. I don't know, but even with a storefront, I think it's unlikely the VPD are going to prioritize coming in
Probably,
and
I
raiding me. Although you never know.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's more likely like Health Canada. I'd probably have trouble getting a business license. They might try to, you know, use bureaucratic fines and things to come after me or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really know how it would unfold, and it's possible I could go to jail, but I'm very unlikely. I think any judge is gonna give me real time for providing non-psychoactive microdoses
What is your intent?
to medical people.
What are you trying to do?
I like to sell them to
Trying to
everybody.
steal
you know,
money from
but-
people, or are you trying to help them? What are you trying to do?
So
Come on.
yeah, no, it's pretty crazy.
I saw Philip
Good on
Lucas.
you, Dana.
Philip Lucas posted recently the history of his, you know, of the Vicks over there on
Yeah.
Vancouver Island, and how a lot of that went down, and then they were busted, and then Matt Barron, his baker, was busted, and he talked about that. And one of the things he said at the end of his submission was, you know, this is what the judge had to say, and the judge vindicated him completely. Said, you know, what you did was the right thing to do. You had the right intent. You know, the law was wrong, and we got to get on. You know, the law is in order here because what you did was right. And I thought that was very powerful as well. And you know, that's what's going on here. I mean, we're just trying to help people. There's an overdose death crisis, and we're just trying to help people, and we're willing to stand up there and do whatever, you know, we're risking, because people are dying, man. And you know, I have so many people come and tell me about the way cannabis is helping them for medical reasons. And now they're coming to me and saying, where can I get it? I mean, my dispensaries are all closed now. I mean, the Green Cross, there's 3,000 people that are, you know, wondering what the hell to do now. And the people that were running that place are in tears about it because they don't know how to help these people anymore.
No, it is really sad.
So,
Like a second push forward.
there's
again,
no
a second
crime
wave.
here. A crime
We
is
do.
when you
I think a
intentionally,
second
knowingly
wave.
hurt people,
I
right?
think a lot of people tried to buy into the legal system and are disappointed with the result, right? And I understand people's desire. You want to follow the rules and that, but a lot of places have shut down or changed, and some, I guess, just are done and figure they had a good run and they made some good money and now they're finished or whatever. But I think it's telling that we're one of the last ones open, and we're also one of the first ones open and stuff, right? But we've got 2 locations and we've only got 1 left, and I'm seeing these walls narrowing, right? Our options are narrowing. We're supposed to be getting this license, and I'm not in any rush to get it, but I can't just not do it.
Right.
Or I mean, I could, but then ultimately that's
Well, you
going to
can get
close
the
in another way
license, and
too.
what you do after that is
Exactly.
another
So we're in this process, but I'm you know, hoping. But I've always said I'd be happy to shut down if the legal system was as good as or better than what I've got. I have no real desire to sell cannabis unless it's needed. But we're still needed. We got more lineups than ever because a lot of other options are closed.
Yeah.
And people are choosing to come to our place rather than to go to the legal shops, right? And
Well, there's
I
only
want them
3
to-
or 4 legal shops in town.
If they had great,
they have shitty
higher
pot,
quality, if they had higher quality,
and it's really
lower priced
expensive.
weed, we would not have lineups at our shop. They'd have
Exactly.
lineups at their places, right?
Yeah.
And there's only a handful
No, it's
of
a
ones that aren't
complete
legal that
fail.
are still open. I was at the Canna Place today. They're up on Canby Street by Oak Ridge, and they're in queue to get their provincial license. In the meantime, they're still doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it seems like just about all the ones that are still open, the 5 or 6, are all in queue to get their provincial license. The Blue Door might be the exception to that.
I think those licenses are the path to bankruptcy too. Like I do not.
Yeah.
I mean, some shops seem to be doing good. I've read some articles, depending where you're located, and maybe different provinces, maybe too. But a lot of places just seem to have a really hard time because they're not able to do a lot of sales, and the
Right.
quality's not really there.
Well,
the
packaging.
markup,
Who wants to
the
support that
markup
kind of
is very
packaging?
low as well,
Oh.
right? And
Yeah. Well, and Neil and I were just reading about what province is he in? Newfoundland. He's the guy who has the store, the biggest store in the province that's done the most business, $1.4 million, and he can't make a buck. He's going to close down.
because they made the markup really low.
Exactly.
And I think also that, I mean, I'm not, you know, with cannabis, if you're just buying a gram or two, even if it's $15 a gram or whatever, you're still not buying that much, right? Like, and I feel like they
It's the
probably.
medical users, the daily users.
And I feel that that's the issue, is that they've probably got a lot of cannabis users buying at the legal shop, but most of the cannabis being smoked, like people who smoke the most cannabis aren't going there.
No.
It's
Yeah.
the lightweights and the occasional users
Yeah. Yeah.
and the weekend tokers that are happy to buy because they don't care an extra $5.
Right.
If I'm just smoking half a joint, it doesn't really matter, right? But if
Right.
you're smoking 10 joints a day or you're using a lot of edibles or whatever, then that $5 a gram adds up real fast.
Right.
Right? And so I think that's the issue. And so with every, with a lot of things, it's 20% of people that use 80% of it. With cannabis, I bet that ratio is even more skewed.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if it's 20% of users that are at like the kind of hardcore level.
Yeah, it might be. It's probably lesser percentage.
Yeah, probably like 10% use 90% or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't studied it. But
We need a good survey. We need to pay for
a lot of things. Just ask you, have you used it in the last month, and that's not meaningful. I mean, it's interesting by itself, but that's not meaningful. As to have you used it in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, like exactly. Do you use it every day?
When was the last time you went a day without?
Or like how many times a day do you smoke?
Even people who smoke every day, there's a difference between someone who does a bong hit in the morning or one bong hit a night to relax, and someone who's using extracts and smoking and doing a lot too, right? So I mean, there's a real wide spectrum of users, right?
They should have questions
the more weed you smoke or use, the more likely you are to have a good connection, the more likely you are to appreciate quality and those issues that someone else might not notice, and the more sensitive you are to
and 4 plants is not enough, by the way. We have that, 4 plants is nice and everything. The government lets you have 4 plants. That's not enough, and we need to fight that continuing to.
And I wanted to add about that thing, because you guys were saying about the Vancouver one and the Quebec one and the differences there. And I mean, I'm not a lawyer or whatever, but it seems to me that a province criminally banning something out of their jurisdictional power isn't the same as a city licensing and zoning an activity, because it doesn't preclude the police from raiding somebody. Like Vancouver can license a place, and theoretically other cops could come in and still do their thing, right? It's like more of a de facto. So I think, I don't know if Jack says they overlap, then I would trust him more than me. But to me, I see them as being kind of. But it does make me wonder, because how come if Quebec can't pass a law saying that you can't grow these 4 plants or we'll put you in jail, then how come BC can pass a law saying nobody can see your plant or you're going to go to jail? Like, what if Quebec said, okay, you can grow your plant, but we're putting in a 4-inch height limit, and you have to have your landlord's permission, and you have to have an inspector come by, and we're going to charge you $100 a month inspection fee to come and like put in such a system that it was a de facto prohibition without actually banning it, because they could. I mean, BC's law is almost that. You got to have your landlord agree, even if you're growing outdoors and nobody can see your plant. That definitely limits the scope of who can grow, right? But doesn't. It's not a prohibition. But
I think Jack would probably say that rule in BC about the not being able to see your plants, that could probably be challenged on the same basis.
Yep.
I mean, I think it should
so.
be.
Sounds like it to me.
They always say, the provincial law is not criminal. I'm like, but you can go to jail for 6 months. So how is that
criminal.
Not? Right. Well, it's not criminal though. It's like
an offense.
But I mean, if someone's putting you in jail, I feel that's like a criminal. I don't understand how it cannot be a crime when you can go to jail, but you don't get a criminal record. But like what? Like maybe I'm missing something there with the provincial idea of things, right? That the provinces, to me, it's if you're going to jail,
there's many layers of rope around us kidnapped people,
No kidding. Seems to be. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Dana, and talking about all of it. Anything else? Is there any
I got my most popular Twitter thread of all time.
Oh.
I got over 3,000 likes, although I see somebody else posted their Subway sandwich and they get like 60,000 likes. There's some woman who ordered like a cheese, cucumber, and olive sandwich, and that was it. And that's like, that's like a huge thing.
That's a good sandwich.
But I made a little thread. It was just because the Surgeon General in the U.S. was saying marijuana is 3 times stronger than it was in the 90s. So I used my history cannabis knowledge and went back and said, okay, so we must have been pretty weak in the 90s. No, in the 90s they were saying marijuana is 40 times stronger than it was before, so it must have been weak in the 80s. No, in the 80s they were saying marijuana is 11 times stronger than it was in the 70s. I found a guy in 1975 who was saying this Jamaican Colombian marijuana is 20 times stronger than the pot we were smoking in the 60s. It's way too strong now. So if you put all those multiples together and do a little math, our cannabis now is 12,000 times stronger than in the 1960s.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, I mean, in the 1960s, I wasn't alive, but people were, people were writing songs about marijuana. It affected the whole culture in huge ways. What were they singing and talking about if it was 0.0001% ditchweed or like it's clearly ridiculous, right?
No, it doesn't make any sense.
And so, but finding that but it's just like it's on Reddit. There's people have been screen capturing my little thread and stuff, and I'm glad it was able to get out there because it's like
I think.
And in the 50s, they said a couple of puffs makes you an addict. You're going to go insane. You're going to kill your mom with an axe. So our weed is 12,000 times. Like one joint is equivalent to 12,000, like a lifetime. Yeah. How long would it take to smoke 12,000 joints?
Like their weed was driving them insane completely.
It was, it would drive you mad and it would kill you. And
see, as a percentage, though, there's kind of a weird thing going on there because mathematically, as a percentage of weed that's available to the general public, Yeah, it's probably stronger, and it might be.
I don't
Depends
buy
where
it.
you are
Here's-
geographically.
here's
because
my- here's
in
my-
back east,
I'll wait for that.
back east, it's been hashed forever.
But Mexican, well, you're right. Hash is probably
Back east,
true.
it's been hashed forever. It was never about flowers there.
That's
So, you know,
true.
the hash
That
was always
Chinese
strong.
shaman 500 BC finding him with that sensor where they picked up THC off that. Like, I mean, there's got to be a certain amount of
But
THC in there.
again,
You're not going to want to
again,
do it.
that's the distinction I'm making. It's not to say that all the hash that was available wasn't better. The hash is probably stronger than any flower, even the ones that we have now or whatever. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the amount that was available to the general population, as you know, now as an overarching number, there's probably more good product available now as a percentage of all of it than there was before. So
I'd say good weed is easier to get now because
Yes.
there's a lot more stores.
That's
and
what I'm saying.
The seed strain revolution in the 90s
Exactly.
also made a lot more varieties
Right.
available to the average person.
But you could find
But
some bomb-ass
I would
weed
also
at any
say,
time.
I've talked to people, you know, DJ Short, renowned breeder who created Blueberry. He says the weed in the 70s, a lot of it was better than what's around now.
Right.
And I think the problem with these
But he
studies
was smoking
into that
good weed, though. He
is-
had access to
is
really
that
good
when
weed.
if you get some seeded weed, okay, so you can take out all the seeds and all the stalk and all the other stuff, and what you're left with is some pretty good bud. But when they're doing their THC level, the government's not cleaning out all the shit you wouldn't smoke. They're just putting the whole thing and they're grinding it all up.
Yeah.
And they're going, look, there's not much THC in there.
Yeah.
And so by pound per pound, there's more THC in a modern hydroponically
Right.
Sinsemilla pound than there was in a pound. But you'd get just as high from a joint because you clean out all the other shit. And, you know, even seeded weed, it makes a lot of THC. It's just got a lot of seeds in there that gets in the way, right? So they're doing it as a ratio of weight to potency. I think weed there's a lot less crap in it now.
Right.
You don't get seeded stuff, the stock, you know. But in terms of how much THC you're inhaling, and of course, if there is a bit of a difference, you just have 2 puffs or half a puff instead of 1 puff or whatever,
That's right.
and then you get the same thing anyways, right? But I mean.
For less.
I'm pretty confident that people were getting really high, and I mean, you look at Carl Sagan in the 70s and 60s, and he's getting stoned and writing theorems and essays that are winning awards and stuff, and like clearly people were getting really high. Sure. It's not like nobody was getting high until the last few years with this really good weed, right? Like that Chinese shaman in 500 BC, I'm sure he was getting just as stoned, if not more so.
And we
High
have
stick in the 70s was
now,
better than
right?
any.
So-
Or how about landrace strains that grow under essentially the most perfect conditions for that plant because that's how they evolved.
Yeah.
So how
There's
do you get
probably
any
more
more
variety
perfect than that? Right?
Because we there's one way there's more variety now because we have more options available. The other way it's all kind of homogenized, it's all grown.
Right.
You know, and it's been a while since I was in Jamaica, but last time I was there, the growers there were not growing Jamaican weed. They were growing seeds from Holland because they want 4-foot plants. They can get 3 crops in a year.
Right.
If they grow a big Jamaican strain, they're going to get busted when it's 12 feet tall and everybody can see it, and it takes too long, right? So we lose some of those natural, and I'm sure the Jamaican weed would have been fabulous in its own environment, but they don't do. Maybe that's changed now. That was quite a while ago. Now it's more legal there, right? So hopefully they're growing.
When I was in Jamaica not that long ago, the weed was really good.
Yeah, well, it was good, but it was quite a while. It was over 10 years ago that I was there. But I met a bunch of growers, and they were all growing. I got ice, got the seeds from Holland, man, and it's going to be great. And they're just growing, and they're just this big, and that's all they want, right? But they can get a couple of crops in a year. They just manipulate the light or whatever, and so.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just point that out. It's a fun little thing.
No, that is very fun. That's awesome. Dana always
All
has
right,
a million
that's it. I'm
projects
outta here.
on the go.
Thanks for having me.
And
MushroomDispensary.com.
MushroomDispensary.com. Check it out.
Canada only.
Microdosing only as well.
I'm surprised, honestly, that MushroomDispensary.com was still available. You'd think that in all the time of the internet, someone would have got that before me. I was just like, let's just see. Maybe I'll get the kids. Oh, it's available. Like
there you go.
Fun stuff.
It was serendipitous.
All right.
All right,
cool.
Dana. Thank you for coming on.
Good
and
stuff.
J-Mac, what's going on with you, brother?
No.
What's going on with the suit?
Just because.
Just because. Show him the suit again. Look at that suit. Very nice, very nice. We've got the pinstripes and everything.
Yep.
Awesome.
Cowboy boots to finish
So
it
do
off.
we
That's
have-
awesome.
I have, you know me, I always wear boots. You know why, guys? I find for me being who I am disabled and stuff with the arch, I find walking in boots better for me. So hence I wear boots. And you must say I look good in boots. So
There you go.
and yes, I will dive my boots on because I'm like hit my car and die. So.
You sleep with them on.
Not quite almost.
Okay.
But after like 6 to 8 hours, right? Yeah. I used to wear the boots in the kitchen. Almost 8 hours a day, 15,000 steps, 20,000 steps a day in these boots.
Do you go barefoot at all?
At home, I do.
Yeah.
At home, I don't wear at home.
So we do have another guest here too.
Oh, we do?
And J-Mac, I wanted to bring on, maybe make a little space so Ross can sit down. We have Ross from the Rastafari Roots Jamaican Cup. Good to see you, man. This is the Ganjamaica Cup. And this is coming up on December 20th, 22nd, 2019. And I just quickly wanted to say, before I forget, that the Karma Cup is this weekend. So if you're in Toronto, go see the Karma Cup. It's going to be dope. It is all this weekend. I think the party starts tonight, and then it's Saturday, Sunday. You can find out more at thekarmacup.ca, or is it thekarmacup.com? You should try that. Ross, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. Giving thanks to be here, you know?
Yeah, thanks for coming down here, man.
Ganjamaican.
That's right.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. The Ganjamaica Cup. And I have, I can show this off here. This is coming up. Oh, there's Johnny in the way. So this is...
Johnny's still there, is he?
He is there. This is in December, close to the end of the year. Tell us a little bit about the cup and what's going on.
Well, in the first place, why the cup, you know?
Yeah.
And why we have an event like that, you know? I don't know how much you know about Jamaica from a cannabis ganja point of view, but for years, you know, grassroots people, especially in Rastafari, have been persecuted with small amount of herb.
Yeah.
So we, you know, especially from a Rastafari point of view, you know, we figure more or less it was a violation of our constitutional rights, you know.
For sure.
The Christian want to use bread and wine in their church, fine. We choose to use a plant as our sacrament, so who are you to deny us? And from a United Nations Charter point of view, we know we were right, but we are still persecuted.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, like we're having marches and writing letters and so on and so on and so on. And so, in the 60s, if you were caught with a seed or a leaf, you would go to prison mandatorily for 1 year and 6 months.
Wow.
A seed or a leaf.
Wow.
And if having one conviction you were caught with a plant, then it would be automatic 5-year or 7-year sentence.
Wow, mandatory.
So, that's where we are coming from in the 60s, where cannabis and laws against cannabis is concerned.
Yeah.
So in 2013, when this whole big thing started to come out now internationally about the medical benefits of cannabis and what Colorado was doing and what California was doing and
That's right.
so on. So the Jamaican government now, because of the pressure that we were also putting on them, decided that they were going to legalize, they were going to decriminalize, and that they were going to establish a cannabis industry. So anyway, as a grassroots Rastaman who have been protesting, you know, and who have been traveling and also looking at what has been happening in cannabis, whether from a technological point of view or whatever point of view, I decided that I was going to keep this event. You know, we started out with High Times in 2015, and then we broke, you know, but even though I am as Rastafari, we don't have the type of financial, you know, capacity to do event, but still we insisted because we saw the importance of an event like this, because most Jamaicans don't know the type of technology that is being applied, you know.
Right.
They don't know that, you know, going to jail for herb is a violation of their rights. So in this event now, we invite doctors, lawyers, because we are trying to prove from a scientific point of view, seeing that they are claiming science to be their basis for outlawing cannabis. We are using science now to prove to them that here are all the clinical reports, here are the research reports from the research that has been done, and so on and so on. So it's a multifaceted event, so we do that. That's why it's seminars.
Yeah.
We do those things in the seminar. But we also, why we call it a cup, we invite the growers from the different regions of Jamaica to, you know, enter this competition, and it is tested scientifically, and it is tested manually. It is tested by the University of Technology scientifically in terms of sativa, CBD, THC and so on and so on. And then we have it now where it is tested manually, the smell, the presentation, and the impact, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why we really call it a cup. At the end of the day, we use it to say who is growing the best herb in Jamaica, whether it be a sativa or whether it be an indica, you know. But that's the cup. But,
Very cool.
Yeah, but overall, you know, I come to Vancouver because there was an AFN conference here, Assembly of First Nation Cannabis Conference, you know.
Yeah.
And what we are trying to do is that not only to deal with the violation of our rights when it comes to cannabis, but also the fact that other people's land has been taken, other rights have been violated, you know. For example, landlessness of people, even in Jamaica where I come from.
Yeah.
You
Is
know
there
what I
any
mean?
talk of expunging records, criminal records?
Yes, they have started.
Yeah.
It was supposed to have been automatic, right? But I sit on the board, I sit on the cannabis license board, which automatically gives me, you know, because I am there, I have to make sure that I am informed in terms of what goes on, both locally, Jamaican point of view, and internationally, you know. So yes, the process has been started, but you as an individual now, you have to apply.
Yeah.
You know, you have to activate the...
Well, and it's
it
definitely
costs money, and you know.
Yeah, it's
No,
definitely changing.
to expunge doesn't cost money.
No,
No.
Here in Canada it does.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely changing down there. When I was there not too long ago, this was less than 6 months, about 6 months ago, I was taken to big grow facilities that are being built, new ones that are being built by some companies that are down there, local companies. These are people in Jamaica, 100% Jamaican owned. And I got the chance to go to some farms that have been there for many years, where they're growing cannabis, and they're growing a lot of it outside. This is outdoor. Yeah. And man, they were gorgeous, just big plants everywhere and a lot of space too. So, you know, there are some people who have, I don't think everybody's been allowed into the system yet, but there's some choice few who are allowed in. Luckily, they are people from Jamaica, not just foreign companies that are coming in and doing that stuff. So,
right, there's the application process, right?
Yeah.
And there are categories of license. For example, you have growing, you have manufacturing, you have transportation, you have R&D, and you have dispensing.
There's 5 of them total.
Five categories. But you have people have gotten their license. The other aspect that you're working on now is the export regulation, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's no sense in you growing all of these cannabis, manufacturing products, but yet you don't have a market.
Right.
You know what I mean? And Jamaica cannot consume in no way whatsoever. Jamaica is just 4,400 square.
No, not even with the tourism and everything else.
And there's still a lot of domestic being produced that doesn't have a license.
Exactly,
as well,
exactly. Because I don't care what happened. And this is our big concern in Jamaica, you know, especially as a grassroots person, that based on the financial requirement, traditional ganja farmers have it hard to participate in the emerging industry.
Right.
Yet these are the people who have borne the brunt of the persecution, have gone to prison, have gone to jail for being involved with cannabis. Now, I think that special provision, and that's what we've been calling on the government for, to make special provision for people who have gone through persecution, or grassroots people.
Shit, makes sense to me, man. That's the way it should be, for sure.
Exactly.
Our government should do the damn same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It ruined a lot of lives for no good reason.
Exactly.
You know, and reasons of greed.
Yeah.
You know.
So in reality, to me, the people who have suffered for cannabis, for using cannabis, deserve compensation from the government.
That's right.
You understand?
I agree. An apology and compensation.
Exactly. Because you are being you were persecuted for something.
Reparations, man. That's what I'd like to see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It cannot be that you deprive me for years of my life.
Yeah.
Right? Set me back. And the same product that you deprive me for using, you are now taking it and giving it to your friends.
And the lies that they told about it, that we know they knew.
Exactly.
You know, we know they knew it had medical value.
Exactly.
That's really why they were prohibiting it, is because it was so valuable.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are documented evidence that they know because long before there was a marijuana tax act in the U.S.
Right.
I mean, cannabis was used for different purposes.
Yeah,
and
prior to
medical
that, it was
purposes.
used for all sorts of, like the number 2 medicine in the States.
So
for a long
it was
time.
a deliberate attempt to control you mentally and economically.
And to
while-
deprive
Exactly.
and to exploit
Right.
all
So
those things. And all those things are real crimes. They knew what they
Exactly.
were doing. They knew they were hurting people, and they went ahead and did it. So maybe it's new government in place now, but just like happens here, that new government needs to recognize the sins of the past governments, and they need to apologize, and they need to make reparations, and they need to expunge records.
yeah, but I also think that there must be a level of activism coming from the people who are concerned and who have gone through those things, because I don't think government is going to just take up something and say yes, you're entitled to this. I think you always have
Not
to be
without the grassroots.
right.
Exactly.
Well, who is it that's whispering in the government's ear? It actually seems like when I was down there, I had the chance to get a little bit in on the politics and stuff, and it seems like the government that's there right now seems pretty decent about cannabis. They are removing the barriers for local business and things like that. Obviously, they're favoring people who have money, as they always do. But it seemed like the attitude of the people that were there, and I got to sort of meet some people who were directly related to the people in power and stuff. That's why I got to go see the farm and things. And they seemed like they were pretty good people. They seemed like they really actually cared about everybody being part of the system and not just, segregating it and having it just the rich folk, versus the people that are actually there on the ground.
Okay, well, I
Of
don't
course,
know.
they were talking to a journalist.
Well, that's true. They were talking. No, I was wearing my business hat at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't there. We were talking about the concept of working with one of the companies down there to open dispensaries in Jamaica. So
I don't know who you met, right? But having been on the board since it came about 2015, yeah, I mean, this present government inherited, they changed the law. Change the law came about in 2015, the amendment to the laws, under the People's National Party and the PNP Party. In 2016, there was a change of government, and this party came into power. Historically, this party, the Jamaica Labour Party, had always been anti-ganja, and it is under their regime in the 60s, but under different, prime minister and under different leadership,
right.
that the most serious attack on cannabis and herb users were carried out,
Wow.
But having come and inherited now, there's a lot of things now that economics cause you to do.
Right.
Because Jamaican government back is against the wall economically.
Exactly.
And having realized now that there's economic benefits from this, and then they are trying really to find out ways and means how the country
Right.
Can benefit from it.
Yeah.
Like I said, the approach, I don't think it was the best approach because, being young in the approach, just 5 years, 4 years. I mean, looking at examples here in Canada, in Colorado, in California, how certain things were approached, we still have to shape, regulations that are in the best interest of our Jamaican people. Whatever example we might look at,
Right.
And I don't think
They tend to be shaped to protect the interests of the big players that have the money.
That's
exactly, right?
exactly what I was going to come and say to you.
It's those people over our people, and
Right.
it's greed over patience.
Well,
so-
and I'm sure that the people I was hanging out with probably had that bias because they were fortunate enough to have the money to have facilities and
and
a lot
inside
of,
connections by
like
the sounds of
family
it.
land and stuff, right? So, yeah.
How do they get those licenses? Is it inside connections for that as well?
No, because even though I sit on the board, I had to apply just like any other individual.
Anybody can
Right.
apply.
But there's a process. For example, you have to have legal document for the land you're going to use.
Right.
You have to have a clean record, so to speak, not a criminal, violent record.
As opposed to
Right.
California, who all the people that had criminal records for growing weed before legalization, they were on the top of the list to get included in the new industry, which was an interesting way to do it, the opposite of what we did here in Canada.
Yeah.
That is how it should have been.
It should be that way, yeah.
Well, in Jamaica now, it's not a matter that if you are involved in cannabis, if you are in drug violence, so to speak, then that would create a barrier for you. But
Right.
Yeah.
just merely to be involved with cannabis, in a non-violent way.
Yeah,
They're
without
okay
violence
with that.
involved.
Yeah, they're fine with that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Well, that's and that's
Well,
sensible.
that's sensible.
Yeah, I think
But-
that makes sense.
what happened is that a lot of Jamaicans, right, including myself, we didn't have the money to invest, but we knew the process and we knew what was going on. So we had to partner with people from Canada here, you know. So a lot of the companies coming, and most of the Canadian companies coming into Jamaica, you know, maybe because it's federally legal here, but most of the Canadian companies, and they do partner.
That's why you were there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they partner with Jamaican people, you know.
Right.
Sometimes it's not, the partnership might not be in the best interest, but at least it is better to have something going
Right.
than not to have anything. And also
Yeah.
the responsibility to prove to non-believers, so to speak, are people who are biased against cannabis, you know,
Right.
to show them that this is what can help our people, this is what can lift the standard of living of our
Yeah.
people, and
Yeah.
so on, you know. Not just for money to be made and to be put in the pocket of privilege few, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So,
No,
brother,
we're with you, man. And like the festival itself, it's multiple days, right? It's like a whole weekend.
yeah, you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we have 2 nights of reggae music. Yeah, hardcore reggae music. And when I say music, I don't mean stupid music. I mean conscious music.
The real music.
Yeah, music that tells history, music that talks about struggle.
Yes.
You know what I mean? As to why Rastafari, why our attachment to herb and
Cool.
everything, you know? So
Very
we have
cool.
2 nights of hardcore music, and then we have the award ceremony on the Sunday night. In between that, we have yoga, because we don't do alcohol at the event. Right, that's something.
good. Smart.
That's good.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't know. We don't
Now
know
just keep it
alcohol.
on the green. It makes a
Yeah.
lot less trouble.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Super.
And this is at
Enjoyable.
Long Bay Beach Park in Negril, which is quite beautiful there.
right, and if we talk about health and wellness, because we focus a lot on health and wellness, so that's why we don't do like Burger King or Kentucky and those things, Red Stripe
Yeah.
and those things at our
Yeah.
event, you know. We try to keep it clean, we try to keep it healthy. Otherwise, we'll be talking one thing and practicing the next thing, you know. So,
Yeah.
so we don't know. So in between the lectures and the seminars, you will have drumming, Rastafari, drumming, because we want people to be exposed to all aspects of Rastafari culture, not just the reggae music, because
Right.
Rastafari goes deeper than reggae music.
Do you pay any attention to hemp? To the industrial uses of cannabis?
We do consider hemp, right? But why we are somewhat, and why we're concerned about hemp is cross-pollination. Because Jamaica is not known
You
for
got a lot of
hemp
outdoor crops that you don't want to be pollinated,
to be pollinated.
Yeah.
right? That's
And
a good point.
if you put the hemp in a certain region that is close to where cannabis is grown, it can pollinate.
Even if it's not
Right.
close, it's wind pollinated and it travels
Exactly.
a long way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's
So-
probably a
and,
good
yeah,
idea. It's an
it'll
interesting
really
point.
go.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right,
for sure.
but people in certain areas, the government is really considering hemp, you know, because you have big players also coming in and want to establish.
Well, and maybe you can use some of the stocks and secondary industry with some of the other cannabis that's being grown, right? If you got
Yeah.
12-foot tall plants, you got some pretty hefty stocks there, and there's a fair bit of fiber involved in that as well. So there could be ways to use that.
Well, people, you know, the system is looking at ways and means how to do hemp without it being, you know,
Yeah.
destructive. Because our,
Well, or use the industrial aspects of cannabis without it actually being low THC.
right. Well, talking about that now, you have an influx of high CBD.
Right,
Herb.
which is hemp, basically.
Not necessarily hemp.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
Well, yeah, I know that, but it's
Right.
Hemp can produce a lot of CBD,
Right.
but
Right.
that doesn't
Yes, it
necessarily
can.
mean that's what you're
Right,
growing.
because you still have, you know, cannabis itself that is high with CBD, low with THC, plus a lot of strains are being created now all over the place. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, people want to smoke them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Originally, it used to be sativa herb that was grown in Jamaica, you know.
Yeah.
right.
And somewhat people liked it because one, like the brother was talking here, time gone, the earth was stronger, the earth was more conducive to, you know, there wasn't so much fertilizer, so much chemicals in the soil, so
Yeah.
you'd get a better reaction from the herb. Now most of these herbs that are produced are not produced naturally. and as such, you know, people get different vibes because we approach herb cannabis from a spiritual point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, that's how we as Rastafari traditionally, not about money.
Right.
You know, but we try to get it from the most natural source. And if I was a patient and looking for medicine, I would want to get it from the most natural source.
Hell yeah. They didn't want a bunch of that gamma radiation or pesticides and all that shit they put in there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, you know, that's our concern, that we should maintain that as much as possible because it's in the best interest of the industry and the best interest of people who become patients, you know.
Yeah.
But like I said, from the hemp point of view, I'm not saying that that will never happen in Jamaica, but you know, it might quite likely take a long time. You know?
Yeah. Oh, it looks like my phone died on Johnny. So.
Johnny said his phone died.
Oh, his phone died too. Okay, well I don't
There you
feel so
go.
bad.
That was-
Yeah,
It was a mutual death of.
yeah. Well, now and people can find tickets if they want online. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's Rastafari.rootfest.com.
Very cool. And
Right.
people would be responsible for just finding a hotel around there or something like that.
Right,
or-
there are a lot of hotels in Negril.
Yeah, there's
I
tons.
mean, you have been.
I have. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
there are a lot
Tons of
hotels.
everything. Everything you need is right there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why we keep it at Long Bay Beach Park because, you know, it's right there. The hotels are right there. You know.
Yeah.
And Negril has a hippie culture. I don't know if you found out that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The people I was hanging with, there's some fun old school people there.
Yeah, but I mean, from the 60s,
Yeah.
hippies used to be.
Well, yeah, we did, and there was like old people who had moved to the beach long ago, and they really did have the hippie lifestyle and
Right.
wearing the clothes, and yeah, it was pretty fun actually.
Right, but you see, because you know, some of the hippies were privileged youth who, I mean, had money, who could afford to come to Jamaica.
Right.
And I'm alright. I was smoking not too long, you know.
Yeah, these were older guys who would come, from other places to go there.
And
Yeah.
it happened us that I was in at the AFN reception other night, and I saw this virgin happy, you know. And,
Yeah.
You know.
By the way,
The way he looked, I said, no, let me talk to this man. And found out that he was one of the first hippies, you know, to be in Negril, not only in Jamaica, but to be in Negril.
There you go.
So, you know, it's good that when people can come together and acknowledge where you come from, because this has been a long struggle. Irrespective of where we reach, you know, again, I heard the brother talking about still the struggle that they have to go through, even when they want to comply with the regulations and with the law. There are still barriers, you know.
For sure.
We're calling it Prohibition 2.0. They got increased penalties and increased enforcement to protect the government monopoly here. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So that's why again I give thanks for this.
Yeah.
What you're doing, because I know it serves as in an educational way, you know, where people can learn about things. Because again, the brother was talking about cannabis, the type of history, medical history that cannabis has. You know, just like you were saying, you know, the man that the system don't know. These doctors, they know.
They
You know, but
It's been
again,
thousands
money.
of years.
I know.
Right.
Thousands of
Yeah.
years.
Right.
Oh, here's
You
the
know.
happy cam.
Right, they are
There we go.
Get happy on there.
Peace, love, and joy.
There he is.
Love, enjoy.
I'd just like to add that I was probably, if not the first, one of the first hippies to go to Jamaica. Not to Jamaica, but to Negril Beach Mount.
There you go. That's
I
what
paid
Ross is saying.
a pound a week for a cottage I lived in, and I was conducting research.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
Earthquake.
Earthquake. Ah.
Yeah.
Star Trek
I was
crash.
conducting research to find out if it's possible to smoke too much ganja.
That's it.
But you gotta really work at it.
Yeah.
You gotta smoke yourself to sleep. You gotta have a sleep beside the bed. When you wake up, go back when the dreams. When you get up in the morning, you smoke a split down at the beach, and then you go into the water and you swim and lie like God.
That is
Nice.
absolutely beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really nice there. I could easily see why that might be something that you'd want to do, Happy.
Jamaica ganja, no, Ganjamaica.
Jamaica.
Yep, that's right. The Ganjamaica Cup. Rastafari Roots, and this is the 5th year
And this is the
you guys
50th.
been doing it. And as you said, you started it with High Times a few years ago, right?
Yeah, we
And
started
then-
out with high times, you know.
Yeah.
But like I said, we try to make this as educational as possible,
Yeah.
where people can come. It's not just about you coming and smoking herb and getting high.
Right.
No, it's much, much more than that.
Exactly. Yeah,
So-
it's got all the stuff.
You got
Yeah,
judges
well, very
packs.
cool.
You know. Yes, we
Nice.
have judge pass, you know. But you know, just to inform people, just to educate people.
That's right. That's-
About the benefits
And who's growing the best weed? You know, where you can get
Yeah.
the best weed.
But
It's important for that.
10 categories to be judged. Best
I have
sativa,
one
best indica.
question.
What's that, J-Mac?
Is there gonna be jerk chicken?
Food
I
is food.
love jerk chicken.
Food
All right,
included?
but there's no jerk chicken in the venue, but outside the venue,
Yeah.
there is jerk
In the grill, trust me, there's a lot of jerk chicken.
Right.
You're not gonna have a hard
time.
time finding it. It's on the side of the road everywhere. There's little like stations for it, and like in front of little places, all kinds of stuff. It's and it's really good too, J-Mac.
So if you
I
want,
love jerk chicken.
It's really
Yeah.
good. It's
So
the
if you
best.
I love
jerk
chicken
chicken.
period.
Yeah.
if you want
Spicoli showed
jerk
up
chicken,
before my
it
show
will
on
be there.
Tuesday
If
with
you
some
want
jerk chicken for
red
us.
stripe beer, it will be there. If you want alcohol, it will be there. It's just that
I
it
don't
won't,
drink.
it
I
won't,
don't
it
drink.
won't be in the venue.
In the venue,
Right.
exactly. You got to go get it yourself, J-Mac.
Right.
No alcohol in the church.
Yeah,
Right.
there you go. Well,
Very cool.
what's that?
The Rasta don't eat.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Really?
So Rastas don't eat meat, so not even jerk chicken.
Jamaica, that's the right thing.
Yeah, well, that's. I really appreciate you coming on, man. And it's very
Yeah.
cool to talk to you about all this stuff. Are you in town for just a little while, or are you? Do you live
No,
here in Vancouver?
I came here for the AFN conference.
Oh, okay, cool.
From the First Nation conference.
Yeah.
So I leave tomorrow and
Yeah.
go back to Toronto, and then leave early Sunday morning from Toronto and go back to Jamaica.
Head back to
you know.
Jamaica. Cool, man.
So, but
Well, it was great to have you while you were here. Really appreciate it.
thanks for you having me, and I must say, I mean, coming to Vancouver for the first time, what struck me is the city is big, but the place is quiet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And-
Relatively.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
it is for real.
Well, in comparing to other big cities,
Yeah.
you know, for example, New York.
Yeah. Or like Toronto.
Oh yeah, we're a lot quieter than that.
We're way quieter. Yeah, everybody
A
in
little slower,
Vancouver.
too. A little-
Everybody in
a little
Vancouver
slower.
goes to bed at 8:30, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
And then they go home.
yeah.
People are a little less
Yeah.
uptight. You know, people
Smart
in
man.
traffic are a little less uptight. It's, yeah, it's very
Smarty pants.
You
It's
really
nice
love
here.
weed. Every time you realize like all that comfortable, like look for weed and then I was like, why not? It's like enjoy scenery. You know, get
Yeah.
there and get there, just take your time.
Yeah, Vancouver's not really known as a party city or anything. You know, it's pretty sleepy here.
Yeah.
It's they actually call it the no fun city.
Well, that's because of
I
city
think there's-
councils. That was because
Well,
of city
yeah.
councils.
I think there's lots of fun here. You just have
Sure.
to find it.
But
You gotta
lots of
search
stuff
for
going
it.
on here.
but
Yeah.
you have a lot of people coming here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
even in the
It's a
hotel,
busy
people
place.
just kept coming and going, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know.
Another one lands about every 30 seconds if you go and watch at the airport. It's oh, it comes another one.
So the conference that you're at here in town is the First Nations Assembly Conference, right?
Right.
This is, and they're specifically talking about marijuana at this
Yes,
conference.
at this conference.
Yeah.
Yes, you know.
And so does that start today, or is that on the weekend?
No,
or-
that finished yesterday.
Oh, it was yesterday,
It was
okay.
the 4th and the 5th.
And how did it go?
Well, I would consider that it went well in the sense that, you know, First Nation people feel that the fact that, you know, they are the original people of this land and they were involved with cannabis use traditionally, historically.
Yeah.
And that and then took place, you know, the government went about their way without even having any form of consultation with the
Yeah.
leadership and, you know, a First Nation people.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you have companies, big companies now that is raking in all of these money, and it's as if the train has already left the station. How do First Nation people catch up with what is going on?
They open
How-
dispensaries.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They start growing weed and opening dispensaries and claim their autonomy.
Yes, but
Yep.
then
I want them
again-
all to do it. You know,
There's
the more the
trouble.
better. They're gonna help.
Again.
They will help us break this monopoly. They are a big player in this.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
again, that's another fight that they have to have with the federal government of Canada, who is basically trying to make the rules for everyone. And I don't think the federal government really has jurisdiction over their rules.
no,
you know?
no.
They didn't
They're
consult.
asking them. They're asking him to shut down.
It's a scandal.
Because
too.
they can't tell him to shut down.
Right.
And so they're angry.
Well, I'm glad to see the rebellion happening. Even in Ontario, I saw one of the chiefs there saying essentially, they've got 50 dispensaries and they're not closing any of them.
Yeah.
They said they'd be happy to, if they want to give us licenses and stuff, sure, we'll take their licenses,
Yeah.
but we're not closing our stores that we have now. There's
Yeah.
no reason to.
That's
They're
right.
not hurting anyone.
And
So-
revenue sharing is not in the
Yeah.
language.
Right.
I visited the Bloom dispensary in White Rock. They're on the reserve right on the border there, and it's just a beautiful place. It's a wonderful dispensary. They have no intention of going provincial license or LP. And when they had their grand opening, there was all kinds of people there. The mayor was there. There's the Liberal member of Parliament for the area was there. And they had a big photo op with all the media going, oh, we're opening a dispensary, and it's nothing to do with the government system. So good on
fantastic.
them. We need a whole bunch more of that in White Rock,
The consensus of the AFN, what I take, and I'm going to be writing an article on it. Basically, at least the leaders of the AFN, there's still some people that are afraid of cannabis and afraid of its effects, and there's the fear that's been built in.
Yes.
And they, to be fair, they've had a real problem with all sorts of
drug use
that we have foisted on them, so they have good reason to be cautious.
For sure, absolutely.
But really, the leading chiefs are going, we have inherent sovereignty, and we're just going to claim it. We're taking that space, we are occupying that space, and we're not, we want to talk with them, we're going to negotiate them. It has to fit within the wider system, recognizing responsibility. For example, if someone comes on the reserve and buys something, well, they say, they have a responsibility, they don't make someone sick. Right. So they're very concerned about all of these things.
Which is, being
how
responsible.
to do it, they're trying to understand how to fit in the system, and I think they've got some really bright people. I was very impressed.
Good.
And you can see what was covered at the conference.
Yeah, this is
really
very cool to see the actual agenda here. But this is absolutely fantastic. We need all the help we can get from every angle. Anybody who has power, man, it's good to see them use it in the right direction and for the right reasons. I just hope it doesn't get corrupted like the rest of them. Like our government.
Well, there's
and everything
going to be
else.
some corruption because there always is, and there's going to be the big
bit.
players because there's big money involved. But we need to get freedom for the small players and the mom and pops and the individual growers and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I have heard, there's an influence. Actually, I was talking to my lawyer friend, who I don't want to say which lawyer friend, but he was telling me some weird stuff about, he was at the conference as well, and about how there was worries actually about organized crime trying to work their way in, and a bunch of those kinds of things, which seems hard,
right?
ridiculous.
They are.
These people have been criminalized a lot, so there has been a lot of contact with gangs, and they know there's issues there, and they'd be silly not to admit it. So they're trying to say, okay, how do we upfront prevent that? Instead of the money going to the people on the reserve, how do we stop it from getting siphoned off? So that was one of their honest concerns. I thought they were really, really excellent.
Yeah, you just need checks and balances to look at that. And
it makes sense. And again, though, it seems like they're two totally separate issues anyways. Like, whenever the federal government always says, well, we need to limit organized crime, it's like, well, that doesn't really have anything to do with cannabis. Like, that's a totally separate set of laws. You guys should be on that. If you find that somebody's broken some laws or whatever, well, go after them for it. What does that have to do with the cannabis side of it?
Well, in the U.S., the war on drugs, the historic war on drugs, was centered around cannabis.
Right.
And so cannabis was deemed the enemy of the state, and then they started targeting certain communities and policing them, and felt justified because of that political messaging.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the U.S., it's a little different.
We're still in prohibition.
It's okay.
Prohibition 2.0.
Oh, they can't hear here. Oh, that's why I
Still
surrounded
doing
that.
prohibition.
Yeah. Then we can get a little better in the mic. But
tell us that again.
No, I can't.
You can't repeat all that.
Okay.
But no, it's absolutely true, and I think that it's good to see that people are checking as much as possible. I think the history there of organized crime in terms of anything has been pretty bad when it comes to marijuana. That's the way that they've used
For sure.
to basically, that's what prohibition's been all about. That's the reason that we're legalizing cannabis in the first place, is so that organized crime can't just control it or something. But when you read the statistics here in Canada about that, Neil Boyd at the University of SFU, Simon Fraser University here in Vancouver, says 95% of the cannabis grown in Canada is mom and pops, it's small people, right? So
and
it's just
big guys that came in, okay? That's offshore money. What do we call organized crime? Is that not organized crime? Let's just be honest about that.
It's the most organized crime.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Extremely organized crime and white collar crime.
Exactly.
So that stuff is the stuff that's killing us.
For
we need to bring it back to local agriculture.
100%. And they have, and there's been there's newspaper articles about money laundering and offshore accounts and all the nasty things,
and other grow rooms that aren't
and yet they're worried about our investment, our measly investment where did our $10,000 come? Really? And there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars.
Billions, literally.
Where's the money coming from? Someone might ask.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Where and why?
Well,
Yes.
it's definitely not any of the journalists, unfortunately.
Somebody
They're not
thinks
really
they can
asking these
grow,
questions very
you know,
much, but
and give you a
yeah.
lot more. That's for sure.
Yeah, well,
So,
I hope that
Where's
some of
my
that stuff gets
share?
itself cleaned out too. But just like all business, I expect that it probably won't be. And I think that from the cannabis perspective, we need to keep fighting for that stuff. I think we have a bigger job to do now. Now that cannabis is legal, we have business activism to do. And that
Exactly.
does not just for cannabis, but that goes for
Exactly.
all business. Because,
Exactly.
we're seeing as cannabis activists what the rest of the world has to kind of deal with. There's been monopolies and all of this stuff in many different industries. And, this was our sort of, cannabis
Yeah.
is my pet focus anyways, but when you really
Well, it
start to look at
exposes
it,
the corruption
it
that's
does.
going on in all kinds of different areas for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the opportunity we have with this.
Yes, it does help people think.
If
But
you-
yeah, there's a lot of businesses out there that you're actually not allowed to start. If you wanted to start a gas station or a bank or there a whole bunch of different things,
Right.
well, good luck.
An egg farm.
And, essentially, I mean, there's a big, huge, long list of them.
Yeah.
And unless you have millions, literally, of dollars, then you're not going to have a chance.
Taxi
So,
cab.
yeah. Yeah, taxi cabs. Yeah, especially here in the city of
No
Vancouver.
license for you.
Uber's not even
Only
allowed.
a set amount of license. These people get them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes on all over the
It's
place.
preferential
The corruption
treatment,
runs deep throughout
nepotism and
this
everything
country of
else.
ours, and we're using these as ways to unravel that and to expose that. That's for sure. The whole attempt to prohibit cannabis in the first place is the most glaring and obvious example that we're not free at all. I mean, if the government could tell you can't have that plant, like, holy smokes, you're not
Yeah.
free. Like,
And we can point guns at you. We can actually
Yeah.
kill you if you have this harmless plant. It's
Yeah.
guns versus
and you can have
flowers.
gasoline and alcohol and pesticides and all this stuff, but not that plant. You know?
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a crazy thing.
If you don't become business activists,
Yeah.
you're going to leave the business of cannabis in the hands of the very people who used to fight against.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
And as it turns out, it's the same people that have been in charge of prohibition all this time too. They're now the
Yeah.
ones that are running the monopoly of selling it to people.
Well,
So-
and shit, if we thought the government was powerful, the people that have all the money are even more powerful.
Oh, yeah.
That's just even closer to the true people in
Oh,
charge.
yeah.
So, in a big way, I think we have to kind of play them, though.
Cannabis
And
is a people's medicine.
yeah,
It can't be just commercialized. It is
That's
actually
right.
a
It's
sacred
just a plant. It's
Yeah.
a natural plant.
No, it's actually a very special plant.
Sure,
It
but
is
people have an
unusual
inherent
plant.
right to
It's
nature.
A sacred plant. And
Yeah.
I think we really have to take it back into a sacred space and actually, respect the medicine. It is medicine first. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of people right now with the dispensaries closing that are losing access to medicine.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Okay?
Yeah.
The government, didn't think of that. They didn't think of the fact that, people in Vancouver at least have been accessing cannabis and learning about cannabis through the dispensaries. And now they're just coming along and saying, well, you are not a medical dispensary, shutting them down. And people are going, well, where do I get it? They didn't know anybody who was growing it or selling
Right.
it before. So
Right.
they're just left totally in the lurch.
Yeah.
It's really inadequate.
No, it totally is. Oh, it's a
Well, they're
total
hurting people
fail
like that.
on every level.
Yeah.
Here in Vancouver, especially, where they could have made this something that was really amazing. It was already so amazing. We had over 200 dispensaries serving the public, and they were all busy.
Yeah.
That itself is a testament to the market and the market demand.
Well, and the support from the community.
Yeah, and exactly. And these are people, and every single one of those dispensaries is hiring individuals from the community. That helps the local economy and
Yeah.
everything. It's a bad
A lot of those
move.
dispensaries that were closed down are just empty storefronts now. They haven't been able to rent them out again.
Oh,
so
they
they're just
all
sitting there
are.
empty.
They're
There's
paying rent.
thousands of jobs
Yeah,
that
exactly.
that
No,
are no
bad
longer.
for the economy, bad for people, bad for everything.
Yeah.
It's only good for the very rich.
Yeah.
And that's why they're doing it, because it's by design.
Can I tell you something really incredibly important that happened this week?
Please do.
in front
Yeah,
of the
a
microphone.
little closer.
It's super important.
Yeah, here, we'll get you.
We'll have a seat.
That's good.
Please.
Yeah, we'll get you over here, J-Mac. We'll just
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll sit between them.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Get her in the hot seat
Yay.
So,
Yeah.
as some of you know, I am the Secretary Treasurer of the Kootenay United Cannabis Association, and I am still the President of the Kootenay Organic Medical Cannabis Growers Club. And basically, in the Kootenays, we've been pushing. We had a big symposium in April and invited all the levels of government to listen to us and basically told them why we were having trouble getting into the craft market, because nothing is happening. We're not moving there. There's still only one licensed micro in all of Canada. In a year, it's ridiculous. Anyway, so it was either Tuesday or Wednesday, okay? And I have to say that after the symposium, I followed up with requests to meet both Catherine Conroy, who is my MLA, and Michelle Mangal, who's the Minister of Energy and Mines and Resources, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I met with Catherine in early June and explained our position once again, and sort of gave her a list of our demands and what we really need to see changed in order to allow us to come in. And she said something interesting. She said, well, Farnworth is working on something right now, some transition plan, but I'm not at liberty because it's a cabinet confidence. And I said, well, the thing is that when you are trying to transition an industry, you have to talk to that industry. You can't just be designing a plan. All of your plans so far have failed because you haven't asked us. Right. We're trying to tell you, we are here. Right here. We know what to do.
It's an extreme form of arrogance in a way. They think they know better, and they don't know our culture at all. And so it's literally cannabis cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
They're going to take it away. It's expropriation. They're going to take it away from us, and they're going to do it themselves better than we've done it. And we'll do it. It's mostly going to be edibles. So people are going to stop smoking when we release the edibles because they won't. Nobody's going to want to smoke anymore.
I heard LPs.
That's what Farnworth said.
I heard LPs that were taking credit for the history of getting us legalization.
Of course. Didn't
rewrite history on us now.
Canopy Growth. They invented weed, didn't they?
Invented weed.
Yeah. I just want to carry on with this story because I think that, like I said, the most exciting part of the story I haven't even told you yet. So anyway, last Tuesday I was, and I've been following up with Michelle Mangal. At the end of April, I requested meetings with both of them. So like I said, I met with Catherine Conroy. But Michelle Mangal, I got an automatic email basically back from her saying that unless I was a constituent, it wasn't too likely I was going to get a meeting. So I contacted them again and said, well, yes, I know I don't technically live in your riding, but I'm in the riding right next door. And many of our members, many of our growers live in your riding. I think you should meet with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they just said, okay, fine, we'll meet with you, but you're lower down on the list. And so I just every month I'd sort of call up and say, hi, I'm still on the list.
Yeah.
I'd still like to talk with you.
Eventually
well, anyway,
got to you.
Tuesday of last week, just before the long weekend, I got a call from Michelle Mangal's aide. And she said, Mike Farnworth, or Minister Farnworth, would like to invite you to a roundtable as a cannabis industry leader, which blew me away. First of all, I don't think I'm a leader, but I had requested a meeting.
Yeah, you are now.
Yeah, exactly.
So
fantastic.
Anyway, that was on Saturday. That was on Saturday of the long weekend. Just so you know how unusual. I mean,
weird.
Yes. Okay. So my mind was going, why are they asking for this meeting? Okay, then, just the day before the meeting, I heard on the news, it was announced on the news, I'm a librarian, right, so I watch all this stuff, that but British Columbia just came above Prince Edward Island in legal sales of pot, for all of Canada. So there's only 153,000 people in Prince Edward Island. I checked. Okay. And so we're just above them, just sneaking above Prince Edward Island in legal sale. So what does that say? Because we're all smoking cannabis, okay?
Right. So it says nobody's buying government weed.
So anyway, when we met with them, basically, Happy came with me, and I brought Josh and Kelly from Dragonfly Earth Medicine, and Jim Leslie, who did run a dispensary in Grand Forks. It was shut down by the police about a month ago, even in spite of the fact that he had only been serving medical patients and had stacks of prescriptions. He said, I'll show you that. They confiscated everything. They confiscated his CBD. He said, that's not going to make anybody stoned. They took everything.
Isn't Brian Taylor the mayor there, though?
He's a young man who's just trying to help out his community. He's the only guy out there. And there was a new cop on the block, and I guess he thought he was showing off or whatever. But 9 years he's been operating in that community, and now he can't operate anymore.
Wow.
I think that's just sad.
I've actually been talking to Brian Taylor, the mayor of Grand Forks, about what cities can do, and I think that maybe that's why Brian's been asking me about that. There may be something going on behind the scenes there.
Yeah. So on Saturday we met with Farnworth. So the group that I brought, plus about 10 other people, there was about 15 of us or whatever, in the room in this round table. And basically Farnworth was really open. He asked, so what is the problem? It's like they're totally clued out, I'm not sure, but basically he asked very politely, I'd like you to tell me what's wrong. And so we went around and they voiced our concerns, and really we came out speaking pretty strongly on a united front, not intentionally, because we didn't know who else was in the room or what was going to be talked about, but basically saying the system they've created can't work with small retail. It's not working with the growers. They can't apply without buildings, and they can't get loans without. I mean, the whole thing is just insanity. Yeah. And the same for processors.
And it shuts out the medical users.
And medical users are totally ignored. So I sat down with Jim and Kelly on Thursday when I heard about the meeting. I called them up and said, I need you guys to back me up and let's just do something here, because we're meeting with Farnworth. And so we discussed the main points, and from that I wrote this, and this is the paper that I gave. So on one side it's basically the situation as we see it on the ground pretty much, and then I have 6 demands. So
cool. Awesome.
Anyway,
and is this, you're going to publish this?
And the thing is, we ran into Farnworth the following day because he was at the Pride Parade, so we deliberately went up and talked to him, and he said, I didn't sleep very well last night. You guys gave me really a lot to think about. So
good.
So I hope we have done something. I don't know if we have or not, but we all need to push. Please meet with your MPs, your MLAs. We met with Wayne Stetsky too. He said he was going to when I told him what we were doing, meeting with Farnworth, he said, if you want, give me that paper. I'll walk it into Bill Blair's office. Bill Blair. So this paper's gone into Bill Blair.
You got to figure that.
I like number 6. It's a moratorium on police enforcement.
How the fuck don't they know already, right? Like they
don't want to know.
Right.
Okay, let's just call the bluff on that.
Yeah.
This system is a factory system they're trying to impose on craft. It is totally inappropriate. They don't demand that of any other craft process.
No.
It's not a factory. There's my partner and I. Growing cannabis. We don't need 300 pages of SOPs and ridiculous things like that. It's
like a produce farm.
Major buildings. I mean, if you sell anything, like you bake cookies for a market,
right?
Okay, you don't need a special building. So the whole
level
of why can't you do it in your kitchen? Seriously. As people do. That's part of the craft market. That's what craft is.
Yeah.
Don't impose factory conditions on us.
No.
Just make it reasonable. As far as they need to get rid of all the requirements except safety testing.
Yeah.
Everybody wants safe products out there. Nobody wants pesticides or crap in there. Okay.
And
that's what their argument is. It's for safety. Well, if it's for safety, that's the measure, isn't it? Drop all the other stuff.
And
drop
where's
all
the
the other
bodies
stuff.
is
Just
what
let
I
it go.
want to say. Where's the
There's
bodies
there's
that
no
justify
bodies.
this in the first place? Cannabis is one of the safest commodities found in nature. So
I think we need to follow up. Everywhere in the province, we need to get people to go in, call their MLAs, talk to them about it, say this isn't working, tell them why it's not working for you. Get a group of people together and say this is why it's not working for us. Come on, we need to push this. In BC, we have the numbers to do it.
Well, we are working on launching a new advocacy group called Fair Cannabis here in Canada, and this is something we've been working on for a little while. We're just our website is getting built at the moment, and we're going to be launching soon. And we're going to have it's going to be a way that people it's a way to channel some of the voices out there and direct them and unite people into, and we're going to have a lot of technology available for people to get a hold of their politicians in groups in a fast, easier way, so that some of this stuff will be there will be avenues and we're going to run multiple campaigns that bring attention to this stuff. Hopefully we'll be able to raise enough money to do newspaper campaigns and other things where we get a lot of attention to the general public about these issues. So there is stuff in the works happening, and I'm glad to see it coming from every angle essentially. And good on you for getting in there and giving this stuff to the people who can actually make a difference here, and for forcing them to listen and pay attention. Sadly, I figure there must have been at least a few others like you beforehand, and they don't seem to be paying any attention to us.
No, but they heard. Listen, that news report came out. Now, how do they look? I mean, BC was the gold crown of cannabis, and now we're right above PEI. I mean, really? I mean, that's got to be really embarrassing. It's a total failure for the NDP government. That's why they came out and saw us on a Saturday of a long weekend, okay? Just think about that for 2 seconds. When does that ever happen?
They must be so embarrassed on every level, not just the provincial government here in BC, but all of the provincial governments and the federal government. You would think. They have fucked this file up in every way they possibly could, and the media is calling them out for it. So, I think there's
Steele
some-
today was talking about the excessive packaging going right into like.
Oh, no
you know,
kidding.
You know, and there's so much ridiculous packaging. It was like, well, it's got to be child safe. We need room on the label for all the warnings and stuff, and it's got to be tamper proof. And,
Yeah.
and somebody else called in and said, well, what about whiskey bottles? No, they don't have none of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and you can get bubblegum vodka right next to the school. It's like there's a display of it in
Exactly.
front of the government-owned
And that's
liquor
the
store.
dangerous thing. That's the
Yeah.
that's
And
the
tobacco
poison that's
all over the place as well.
demobilizing our young men and young women.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it's being pushed on people. It's terrible addiction.
What does
No.
it take to open a package of
That's
cigarettes?
why the
you know?
government should not be involved in any kind of sales of any product, let alone drugs and alcohol or
Yeah.
casinos and things like that. There's an incentive for them to make money from that. So there's an incentive for them to push that stuff on people,
Yeah.
like push alcohol,
Yeah.
push casinos. And I don't want them fucking with cannabis because they have a history of doing all kinds
They've
of
like
bad
proven
to-
they
things.
can't be trusted.
I'd like to just add though that in all, I felt that we were really heard.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Good.
I was asked by a reporter from a Castlegar paper. I can't remember the name of the paper, but what I thought of it at the end, and I said, well, I found it really encouraging because up to now I haven't even had anybody to listen.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So they were there.
No,
they were
it's good that
listening, and
farmers
on a
is
long
asking.
weekend, so that was
Yeah.
good. And now it remains to see what they do.
If they do
Okay.
some,
We want to form can I read the points? Just the main points. I'm not
Yeah.
going to read the whole thing. It's too much. So what we're asking for is a craft advisory council that's formed of our current farmers, that is the legacy farmers, processors, and retailers that were serving the medicinal market largely before, and some of them might have been doing beyond that, but I'm talking the legacy group. We want a craft advisory council. That's us. We can form that. We have the power to form that, but we want that to be the advisory council to the provincial and the federal government. The British Columbia Cannabis
Made
Advisory
up of
Council
people from
craft-
the weed community.
from the small craft industry. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's our first one. Secondly, we want to have a pilot project in BC, and we're suggesting in the Kootenay region, but it could involve people throughout the region. The point is, we want to make it easy for them to control whoever's in this pilot project, so things don't get screwed up, and we all gotta, be on our best behavior, etc. And just show them that we can do this, and there's no big problem. I don't know what they're scared of. I think
Right.
it's total nonsense. Anyway,
Yeah.
You
so
mean
we
in
want a
terms
pilot
of
project.
retail or the whole scope?
The whole scope.
Yeah.
And we want to deal with the medicinal thing too. I'll explain a little bit more how. So anyway, we want a pilot project to be set up that the police will recognize and give us safe space to operate in,
Yeah.
so we can demonstrate how our market works
Right.
properly.
Good.
Better, okay?
I like it.
Next, so the safety testing point. We want them to drop all our other requirements. If we want Canadians to be safe, let's focus on what makes them safe, and that's the safety testing. It shouldn't matter what kind of building you have. If you're growing in your basement, if you're growing safe cannabis that has no mold or mildew and you're not using pesticides, then what difference does it make?
Easy enough
Really,
to test.
this is craft.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
craft. Let's take
Yeah.
it back to craft. Let's not
Yes.
mess around and demand things that make it impossible for most people who are not wealthy to come up with that kind of capital, especially when they throw in then that you got to come up with a building before they'll even look at your application. That's
Which makes no sense.
So just back to safety
You should
testing.
be able to walk in with cannabis no matter how it was grown or where it came from, test it, and if it passes, it's in.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no killing of all the microbes.
anyway,
That's another
right
side.
now-
But anyway.
What we're saying is that craft farmers should be able to come in on a pilot project, and we grow our cannabis the way we grow our cannabis, and if it passes the safety testing, then like as a transitional thing that we grow out, so they know
Yeah.
we're growing out, we're in the system, and they test it. If we pass, we should be given a micro license
Yeah.
for whatever we're applying for. None of the other nonsense matters. If we can grow good weed,
Yeah.
well, and anybody in Canada should be able to apply. I'm not just saying
And the
old
cost
legacy
shouldn't be
growers, but
prohibitive.
in particular, no, they should not be prohibited. And
Well, they should actually change the microsystem completely because
Yeah.
currently you can't make money. Like you can't, even if you
I
wanted
know,
to start a
we know
micro
that.
and they open it up for
We know
everybody,
that.
it's just not a profitable enterprise.
So that's the next point. Next, this is point number 4. We're demanding medical cannabis access for patients. This has been a terrible thing. I explained to Minister Farnsworth that what they have done is, in Vancouver in particular, but in many other places as well, they've taken people that have been very have come into using cannabis through the dispensary system and started to use it that way and learned that it helped them with their arthritis or their whatever problems and anxiety, you name it, insomnia, whatever issue they have. So they have been using those sources. Now the government is going around and shutting down these medical dispensaries, and firstly, those people lose access. Secondly, they're being referred to the recreational dispensaries who are limited to 10 milligrams a dose. Many of these people, I was told yesterday by a doctor, that a child that has Dravet syndrome needs as much as 2,500 milligrams. I'm talking a little child needs as much as 25 milligrams of CBD. So what's she going to take? 250 tablets? Like, let's get a grip here.
Every
just
human
totally
is different
inadequate.
too, right? Like some people are able to take a heck of a lot. Some people are lightweights like me.
Exactly. So
well, we're using cannabis in the form of high-dose edibles to get people off the hard drugs, and that can be successful because they're powerful.
I mentioned that as well. So that's encompassing all of that. And we proposed basically that our craft farmers who were serving that market and doing a damn fine job with nobody dying or even ever getting sick that we know of, that we show them how to do that. We keep serving that market so that group of people gets their product. It must be tested. We'll test it to make sure it's safe before it goes out to the patient. But if we do that and if it tests safe, we should be allowed to continue serving that market, as we have done. That's that point. And basically, I'm saying those people need to be served. We need to create a plan to serve those people. They have no transition plan. They have nothing in place. I told them they should be ashamed of themselves. That I was ashamed of them as a Canadian citizen. That's totally inadequate. Anyway.
That's my message.
Next. We want to move towards environmentally sustainable practices in farming and processing and packaging for that matter. The whole thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but Prime Minister Trudeau said we are in the middle of a climate crisis. In a climate crisis, we need regenerative growing practices. I think Kelly and Josh might have been here talking about them, but basically what that is growing cannabis using totally natural sources. It's beyond organic, totally. This is our first year growing, and I'll get happy to show you some pictures. But we visited Kelly and Josh's farm last year, and I mean, just to give some perspective, I was growing cannabis in my house in the 70s, like 76. So I've seen a lot of farms. And they have the nicest farm I've ever seen.
Beautiful.
Good. They have like 17, 18 foot gorgeous.
You don't need artificial means to grow cannabis the right way.
No, they use compost tea. So they take plants that grow on their land, and they feed, depending on what the plants need, they feed those plants, make through the process of infusion and then fermentation back to the plants. And they also make sure that they're adding the right microbes, which are microbes that ganja likes, which are basically forest microbes or woody microbes. And
there's a science to cannabis.
Fungus.
And it doesn't have to be this weird plasticky manufactured corporate science. It's the bugs will kill other bugs, and that's what and selecting strains that are resistant to these things is the first step too. And so I think there's a lot you can do in that regard that doesn't take pesticides.
This is our first year doing it, and this is the most beautiful garden I've ever had. It's way fun. So that's that. I think that as a small industry, if we hope to make any way at all against these mega multinational corporations, we have to stand out. We stand out by just going to the heart of the matter and treating this sacred plant the way she deserves to be treated.
Absolutely.
And respect the plant. Understand that it is medicine first, and medicine might include making yourself feel better and lightening up on the stress that we're all feeling in this situation.
What's the next point?
The last point is we want a moratorium on police enforcement and on transitioning dispensaries, farmers, and processors, and the expungement of all non-violent cannabis-related criminal records.
Bingo.
I don't think I need to explain that one.
Nope.
We're very much in favor of that.
That is fantastic. Really great to see that list. I'm so glad that somebody is getting to these people. Because geez, they sure don't seem to be listening.
No.
Well, good on you. Great work on that. And, if you hear back from them, I'd love to have you on again anytime soon and, continue this conversation.
And I wanted to say that they did hear us with respect. It remains to be seen what they do, but I felt really positive at the end of the meeting. I just hope they carry through with it. We need to hold their hot little feet to the fire.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, I'm glad to hear they were receptive instead of rolling their eyes like the mayor of Vancouver
they were,
does.
I think, frightened, to be honest, given the context.
Well, they should be. Because they really screwed everything up.
They did. And
so they have a lot to be sorry for and a lot to be frightened for because people are going to fire them. Their jobs aren't permanent. And, I think the people of British Columbia are pretty smart. I don't know. We always kick our governments out. Maybe they're not, or maybe we're not the smartest, but the
very flawed
swing
system.
wildly
yeah,
from pole
I'm
to
sure
pole.
when we get a Liberal government in next time, they'll be, hopefully better than the NDP has been. Like I actually, as much as I used to be an NDP supporter, I'm a lefty and stuff. I think our particular British Columbia government happens to be controlled by the BCGEU in a big way. So
I think
that's
we need
troubling.
green. I think we need green. I'm sorry, we're in a climate crisis, and neither of those two parties are addressing anything. They don't even want to look at it. They're pretending nothing is happening. Our oceans are drowning in plastic. Our waters are polluted.
Yeah.
We're losing our birds and our frogs and our insects. I mean, okay, when is it time to do something? I think it's now.
I wish there was a party that wouldn't take everything to such extremes all the time. Because it's
It
always
is
like
extreme.
every single party goes to these insane extremes, whether it's the Liberals with their neoliberal,
We need
crazy,
an
almost
extreme
fascism,
change.
or
We
the
need-
the NDP and even the Greens. Though I mean, as
Look
much
at the
as
storm that just hit the Bahamas.
Yeah.
It sat on the Bahamas for 3 days. They know 30 people have died, but they think that that death toll is going to go. Look at Puerto Rico. These disasters
got
are
big
happening.
problems.
Now, we can sit up there and say, well, it's not happening to us, so that's pretty cool, right? Or we can recognize that actually climate change is happening faster in Canada than in any other country of the world.
Well, it definitely
are we
seems
gonna
to be
wake up?
real.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I want the hypocrisy to stop. That's what I want. I mean, Trudeau's saying that they're going to ban single-use plastics, and then look what they got with the cannabis plastics. Those are you can't even recycle that plastic.
No, I know. It's,
For what? I mean, it's just for nothing.
it makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
Yeah,
It makes money for people.
And
but it
why?
makes no
What's
sense.
wrong with a plastic baggie?
Exactly.
Like, what the hell is wrong with a baggie, man? Give me my Ziplocs. They're just perfect.
But they're plastic still.
Well,
And
or
they go
exactly.
they break down into tiny
I-
little particles that just continue to pollute. And
I bring
continue to
my
kill.
jar in, my mason jar,
That's a
and
very
be
good way
like,
to do
fill
it.
me up.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say to you that there's no victory without a fight,
Yeah.
That's it.
When you want something, you have to fight for it.
That's right.
So
Anything that's
It's
worth
absolutely
getting is
true.
worth
you have
fighting
to
for.
come in the mood
Very
that,
true.
she and the others need.
It's unfortunate, but the powers that we're dealing with, pretty much you got to fight for every inch you get.
That's the world we live in, and exactly, and that's been the
Their
history
interests
of
are
it.
not your interests most of the time. They have a different agenda than us.
Exactly, and I always look on them as colonially established government who try to, just do things in our colonial traditional way, what I mean? Because in the first place, the now generation and our indigenous or First Nation people, for example, didn't create these anti-cannabis or anti-ganja laws. It came down from the colonialists.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And it is reason they didn't just do it accidentally.
No.
There are reasons why.
Oh, it's
they
by
do it.
design, every
what I
single
mean?
one of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it might not be logical, but it doesn't make sense, but it makes money for people.
Yeah.
Well, it's the perpetual struggle too, because like we were saying earlier, once we get through with even some of these little cannabis bits, there's a heck of a lot more to get to. And obviously climate change is one of them. I think that we're in for some serious trouble if we don't start doing something real quick.
Cannabis can lead the way in that. That's what we're
right.
suggesting, that we can show a better way to grow that isn't polluting the world, isn't polluting the water, isn't polluting the soil.
Exactly.
Like, we can do it better.
Enriching those things, in
Yes,
fact.
exactly.
Yep, the cannabis revolution.
The cycle of life, the way it should
Exactly.
Yeah, and cannabis
Working with our
brings
environment.
people together.
be.
It
Yeah,
does.
exactly.
Don't
Exactly.
it? Bring people together.
It brought all of us together here today.
Well, I hope that our relationship with the cannabis plant can save us. In a huge way, cannabis is a hero to humans
I
in
agree.
so many ways, right? Like, we have evolved, we've co-evolved with the cannabis plant. It's like our brother or sister. And
Sister.
yeah,
Father,
exactly.
family.
Well,
Mother.
both,
Mother.
both, right?
Part of the
and
family.
and hermaphrodites as well. But I think that it is sacred for that reason. It's more to us than we actually know.
Exactly.
Oh, huge.
You know, and
Just
I
look
think
at the
that
endocannabinoid system
I'm
and how
hoping,
that would have developed,
I'm hoping it's the stronger of the two, because humans keep screwing everything up. Maybe cannabis, maybe we can rely on our friend to help us
But
get
you
out
know
of
what
this.
is happening
think
now?
so.
Science
It helped me in my life.
is now proving that what the traditional cannabis users, ganja users were saying was exactly right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Science is now
They
proving.
still don't want to agree with that because they were putting people in jail for a long time.
Yeah.
And they don't want to admit that they were wrong about that.
Yeah, but the fact is that a lot of reports, a lot of clinical trials are coming out now that prove them wrong.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
no, and it's nice to see that. But yeah, like Neil was saying, they are trying to save face, and that's why we still have all these stupid laws and stuff.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that cat comes out of the bag, oh lordy,
We
now
could
they're going to
sue
have to
them.
apologize for all the stuff they've done, which is really
They
bad.
just might be
You know?
liable and culpable for some of the lives they've ruined.
Well, I sure hope they are. Like the pharmaceutical companies are being held. You know, they're holding pharmaceutical companies like Johnson & Johnson accountable for the opioid
pennies.
crisis. So.
Good.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
start,
it's,
but it's
true.
pennies.
It's bullshit anyways.
Yeah.
500 million to them is the throwaway.
IOV told you what's going on in Jamaica. Like, let people know what's happening there on the
Yeah,
ground.
we've been talking about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
no, we had a great
excellent.
discussion about all of it, and it's pretty
Did
amazing.
we cover everything you wanted to?
Yeah, was there
Because
anything else?
Because what she was talking about is the disadvantageous position that traditional ganja farmers would face in Jamaica, which we did talk about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that the way the system and the industry is structured is more toward the benefit of those who have money, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, we
Same
we're
concerns.
Same
Yeah.
old, same old.
Same
Yeah, we're
old,
singing
so-
that tune
Yeah,
everywhere
same
these
old,
And
same
they're
days.
saying it up and down the coast too, like all the farmers in Oregon and Washington and California. So
Yeah.
we need to really come together. We are not fighting against each other. We're not
No, no.
competing
The enemies
against
of
each other.
freedom
We're
are
on the
not
same
us.
team.
They're-
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're fighting
They're the
for freedom
powerful
here.
elite.
It's a funny thing
Always
that it's
has been.
always the people that are the ones actually doing everything and the ones who actually have the power in society that have somehow there's a small group of people that manage to take it away from them for a little bit and they just have to take it back for themselves, and that's really the only way it's going to happen.
It's
Is, you
like
know-
the bowling high school.
yeah, it is.
You gotta stand up in the motherfucking bowling high school. The dog in there, you gotta stand up to your right.
Yeah, but uniting is hard. You know, you feel alone as a human sometimes, and when you got to get together with your brothers and sisters and everybody else, and make the power happen. Power in numbers.
Yeah, I think the young youth are now becoming more outspoken.
Yeah, which
You
is
know what I
great.
mean? Yeah, and
Good to see
because of their experience using something like herb, like cannabis,
Yeah.
and they realize the benefits,
Yeah,
the medical benefit, the spiritual satisfaction that they get from using it.
for real.
Well,
Then
people
we-
don't like to be bullied, you know, and we're being bullied by our
Exactly.
governments over this, and it's not right.
But those who benefit so much from this plant continue to ask why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as such, some of them are strong enough to say, no, we can't just sit by and watch, you know.
A friend of mine, his cousin, you know, had terrible insomnia for all of his life. He's in his mid-30s before somebody said, you know, try cannabis. You know,
Exactly.
and he's been kind of anti, you know, breaking the law guy all his life. He was so angry, you know, that helps him so much now. And he was so angry that he'd been denied that or even the information that could help for all of his life, you know. So
Yeah.
people get angry when that happens. That's why there's more and more activists every day.
In Boston 2016, because travel all over. Like in 2016, I was at the UN, the UNGAS, United Nations General
Yep.
Assembly Special Session, having to do with the drug policy, the international drug policy. You know, in Israel, all over,
Yeah.
California, Colorado, anywhere, you know, cannabis activity taking place, and I can be there.
Yeah.
I'm there. But in Boston, 2016, we met a youth, he was about 16, 17 at the time. And he said he had a illness disease called Crohn.
Right, Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
And that
Stomach.
was the first time I was hearing about that.
Yeah.
Crohn. And he said he took all manner of medication.
Yeah.
His mother and his father was in the RD.
Yeah.
And said some of them he didn't even remember.
Yeah.
But one of them in particular brought on a mild form of lupus. And it wasn't only until he was introduced to CBD oil
Yeah.
that the CBD oil cured not only the Crohn, but all the other side effects that were brought on by the other
Hey man, it's the
medication.
tree of life, the healing of the nations. It's all of it,
Exactly.
man. For real.
And the safest medicine you can use.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not a matter that there are so many clinical trials, there are so many proof. But again, I know that because the pharmaceutical companies want to stay in business,
Yeah.
and again, the system wants to have psychological control over people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, you know, when you start burn herb, them cannot control you psychologically. So I think
That's
that's
what
why
they
the
say,
big-
yeah. That
Yes,
fucks
you know.
up their mind control.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even
it's
Jamaica, because of Rastafari association with cannabis, that's why we were so heavily persecuted, and cannabis was so heavily persecuted.
Yeah.
Because they claimed that it was because of our use
Yeah.
of cannabis while we became rebellious against the system and so on.
Yeah,
So on.
yeah. Well, it's the union. All these people get together because they see the dangers of it, and
Yeah, man.
and that's how our friend Cannabis helps us see things a little bit differently.
It opens the mind.
Yeah, it does for sure.
Opens the mind, you know?
Beautiful. Ross, I really appreciate having you on, my friend, in a huge way. Thank you so much for coming. We got to wrap it up. It's just about 6:30 here in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, 307 West Hastings at the Cannabis Culture Lounge, our Pot TV studio. Big thanks to Dana for coming on today. J-Mac, thank you.
No.
Yeah.
No. Don of Dank.
Say what?
The Dawn of Dank.
The Dawn of Dank.
The Dawn of
Oh,
Dank.
yes.
J-Mac is no more.
Yes, no,
J-Mac
exactly.
is
It's that
dead.
suit. Big
J-Mac
thanks
is
to
dead.
everybody for coming on. All of our guests today were awesome. There's lots of shows on Pod TV that you can watch all week long. Tune in from Monday to Monday to find out all the amazing shows, including with Mr. Neil Magnuson here.
I'm gone for 2 weeks actually. We're still going to take the time slot. We're going to run Still Trippin', the movie that I made with GS Joe Films. Still relevant, almost 10 years later, and still relevant. So we're going to play that next Tuesday, and then we're going to run a bunch of interviews that we had with people from Vandu, from the CSP project for the following week. And then I'll be back on the 24th with Brian Taylor as we continue our pursuit of what mayors and cities can do to allow for cannabis to be dispensed for medical purposes.
Brian Taylor, the mayor of Grand Forks, very friendly to the cannabis issue. And don't forget about the Rastafari Roots Ganjamaica Cup happening in Jamaica, in the Grill, Long Bay Beach Park, December 20th to 22nd. You can get tickets online, and it's RastafariRootsFest.com. Check them out online. Don't forget about the Karma Cup this weekend in Toronto. I had the address on my phone before it died.
It's like today, tomorrow, and Sunday.
It's tonight at Planet Paradise. There's a party hosted by Mr. Craig X, who was on the show a couple weeks ago to talk about it. Then there is the big event happening in Toronto. Now, I don't have the address for you. I'm assuming you can find it on their website, thekarmacup.com or .ca. Check them both if it's not .com. Make sure you put the in there. You can also find them on social media with the as well. We will see you next Friday. I think I'll be back. If not, we'll see you the Friday after that. But
thanks for having me, Jeremiah. That was fun.
Thanks, Neil. Always fun.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you guys soon. Drug peace.
Drug peace.
Hi there. Welcome to the 420 Lifestyle Show. I'm Carly Marley. She's taking a dab. Thanks.
We can play the Sycamoose video.
Oh yes, Sycamoose video. Let's play the Sycamoose video.
Yeah, so that's my home. That's like all over the place, I guess.
It helps the speaker lead his audience into the scene he describes.
Oh, I'm rolling out the fattest joint I could possibly fit in this paper. If it was any bigger, it would explode.
Are we still banned on YouTube? I'm Marijuana Man. Welcome to From Under the Influence. If they had weed, guaranteed they would make money. That's the only conclusion I can come to, is they don't have any weed. Because people are still going to buy it, for God's sakes. People actually like weed and want to buy weed. And a huge number of people have no choice but to come and buy it from you. And still, you can't make money? Holy fuck. Now what? What are you going to do to us now? When I was even at a very young age, go, wow, like, why would this be illegal? It is so much fun.
Outlawing laughter and feeling good?
Yeah,
What?
laughing. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Peace. And pod.